5, 4, 3. Hi, everybody. Dugroz here with Dugroz Reports. Welcome to my Saturday morning live stream. Today is Saturday, August the 2nd, 2025, and I'm reporting live from my house. Good to see each and every one of you on board. Today's theme of the day is the Citi Strata Premiere. Did it just get good? We'll take a look a little later in the show about some of the changes that have happened within the Citi ecosystem and specifically why I think the Strata Premiere is worthy of consideration in the archives of the Jedi Order. Let's see who's joined us so far this morning. We've got Mike Newland on board. Good to see you, Mike. And Michael S., Texas Dog, Dad on a Mission, Matt Clausen. Ron Byrne is here and says he's listening while doing yard work. And Double Animal Fries is on board and already comes through with a $2 super chat. Celebrate. Thank you, Double Animal Fries. Only on for a minute. Have a good one, Dugroz. And morning, everyone. I'm sure it'll be a great live. Excellent. I will order some Double Animal Fries next time I go to Burger King in your honor, DDAF. Thank you so much. I appreciate the patronage. That is very helpful. Mojo and Dong Kim. All right, I see 24 people on board. Please click the thumbs up button if you've not yet done so. That drives more people in here and tells the algorithm, hey, there's a doings going on here. TM Cowling has arrived as well. But let's not delay any longer. Let's go ahead and do what I normally do, which is get into the Dugroz data points. This is anything in the world of points, miles, cash back, and more that I think is generally interesting. About a week ago on Dr. Credit, hat tip to them, I spotted this article, Class Action Lawsuit, Hyundai, Kia, Mitsubishi Airbag Control Settlement. You could be awarded somewhere between $150 and $350. I will admit I'm doing this for myself as much as anyone because I drive a Kia. Actually, my wife and I both drive Kias. So we need to get some airbag control settlement. I need to look into more details on that. I did look just long enough to see the years covered includes my 2013 Kia Soul. So I'll need to pick up some more info on that in the near future. Next Dugroz data point comes courtesy of diehard Ron Byrne, who is on board. And he let me know that on his Hyatt card, he was offered 5x bonus points on up to $1,000 at grocery, gas, and restaurants between now and September 30th. So if you have some of the Chase co-branded cards, if you would double check that, probably a good idea. If somebody could just list over here in the comments if they can hear my audio okay. My microphone got knocked out of position and some settings got changed. I just want to make sure we're cool with that. Dennis Dunn has arrived, says, go get him, Doug. I sure will. Thanks, Dennis. Much appreciated. Next, Dugroz data point. It seems like I'm always running across, got the wrong tab open. I'm always running across opportunities to promote choice privileges points. And within the recent past, I got an email that says limited time offer, save big on points. And what they're talking about is purchasing points. And it specifically says you can get up to a 40% bonus. This offer ends August 25th. All right, we got 23 days to go. Let's look at some more details of what we can get with this particular offer. So I went in and made a faux purchase, meaning I got to the last step but didn't actually commit. And if you drag the little slider to 14,000 points or more, like it says up here, you get 40% off. Well, all we care about is what that comes out to. That comes out to 0.618 cents per point. I informally value choice points at 1.25 cents per point. That's based on some mild to moderate cherry picking. I mean, don't stay at the Roadway Inn on the south side of Chicago or something like that. But, you know, if you get a Cambria or an Ascend property, or maybe you're going to use your choice points to book preferred hotels where you're getting even better value. And we'll have just a little bit on that later in the program. I think 1.25 is definitely plausible. Tiger Maple has arrived. Good morning. Filmo is here and says, good morning from a 3 Kia household. Good to see you too, Phil. And that brings me to my first in-person Dugroz data point of the day. I actually had this last week, but I've been saving it for when Filmo arrives. So I got a letter in the mail from the people at Wells Fargo. Uh-oh, you might know what's coming here. It's the day we've all been dreading slightly. Yes, my Golden Ponies card used to look like this. Beautiful black card with ponies running across a field of flowers. And now it looks like this. Basically, it looks exactly the same as the Wells Fargo autograph, except it just, like, is this the most generic card ever? Rewards. So I'm still going to call it the Golden Ponies card, but it looks like this. And yes, Filmo, I am going to look into the card art thing Wells Fargo sometimes lets you do and see if my card is eligible. I don't know. We'll have to find out. So that's kind of a sad day. No. Chad Pennycuff is here and says, howdy y'all, I'm wearing black today. My condolences to other U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve fans. Yes, we are mourning the loss of the Altitude Reserve. Dearly beloved, thank you for gathering to celebrate the life of the U.S. bar. And we'll get to that a little bit later. Jonathan Martinez says, good morning, Doug. Big hugs from Spanish Harlem, New York City, also known as Manhattan. There is a Jonathan in Spanish Harlem. Mike from LA is on board. Frugal Dad says, good morning on a beautiful day in South Jersey. I just looked up something from New Jersey. What was it? Oh, it was just a customer I had to call for my work. Mike from LA says, I hope the city news softened the blow of the US Bank news for you guys. Definitely got me rethinking my credit card strategy. Glad you're on board, Mike, because that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. I already mentioned it once, but for the late arrivers, I will mention again that the theme of the day today is Strata Premier. Is it good now? We're going to talk about some of the changes to the city ecosystem and how that impacts things. Matt says Wells Fargo still has some better design language across the board. I will give them credit for at least being consistent. And Filma wants me to get some Golden Pony stickers. Maybe I can, somehow merge the two. Yeah. That's a good idea. 58 people on board. Well, that escalated quickly. Please click the thumbs up button. Maybe today's the day we'll clear 100 concurrent viewers. Good morning from Lakeland, Florida, Kevin Hawthorne. Good to see you. Next Dugroz data point here is from Capital One. This is a personal data point. I got this email from Capital One. It says your 0% promotional balance transfer APR expires in 36 days. This was a few days ago. And it reminds me that the exact expiration date is September 3rd, 2025. One moment. Got a frog in my throat. Thank you for your patience. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because sometimes Capital One has a reputation for bad customer service, or there's a YouTube video that keeps getting promoted to me by YouTube that's something like Capital One is basically a loan shark. I haven't watched it. This seems like a good move from Capital One. They're actually trying to give me a fair warning heads up. I did a balance transfer for a small portion of my balance. I think it was like $4,000 9 months ago. I think it was a 9-month APR, and they're giving me 36 days of warning. So thank you, Capital One. I think that's how all banks should handle it. Where were we? We already mentioned Kevin. User JS0929 just became a YouTube member. Thank you, user. That's just as good as a $3 super chat. Celebrate. I'll talk a little later in the video about what it means to become a channel member, but I do have a channel membership. It's called a Dugroz Diehard, and I always say if you join while the live stream is going, we get a little celebration, and we just did. Thank you, user. Matt Clausen says, one of the only reasons I keep my Capital One cards around is the semi-frequent 0% balance transfer offers. Yeah, they do offer them all the time. Of course, you have to, put in a little bit of effort to track them, but it's not too onerous. I mean, if you're in this game, you should already be good at keeping records. Matt says, Wells offered me one lately. Well, that's a little different. US Bank is often throwing me those kind of offers, specifically on my Cash Plus. Before I forget, I'll go to another physical data point in person. Couple envelopes showed up in the mail today from American Express. Here's the first one. You'll see it says the Business Platinum Card. Apply for the Business Platy Card and earn 250,000 membership rewards points after spending $20,000 in 3 months. That's a hard target to reach. I'm probably not going to reach that, but there's a couple things I wanted to point out. First of all, the lady in the picture and me are wearing the exact same shirt. We're coordinated. So this is player 2. You'll see the little P2 here. She was offered 250,000. Now, player 1, exact same letter, exact same day, offered 150,000. Hey, what's up with that? 250,000, 150,000. Apparently Amex thinks my wife is more important than I am. Made me a little jealous. I'm not going to be able to do either one of those, but just wanted to mention it. User says, so upset I'm in pop-up jail. I'm so sorry about that. It's weird because I was in pop-up jail for a long time for certain things. I think I still am for personal cards, but for business cards, they're throwing them at us. Catch 631 says, I've had nothing but good experiences personally. I assume you're talking Capital One here. They were my first card years ago after making the mistake of getting a Credit One credit card. Well, you probably thought they're the same company since one of them stole the other one's logos. Thanks for being on board, Ketch, and for commenting. Matt says, I think she's more lucrative for sure. Or they think she's more lucrative for sure. Yeah, well, she hasn't played the game as hard as I have, so maybe she's more profitable for them is what they're thinking. And now everyone's favorite segment, we don't take Amex. So this one I found in person last week. I had a doctor's appointment in Ames, Iowa, which is about 30 minutes north of the greater Des Moines area. And the name of the business is not Donations Accepted in the Back. It's actually it's either Goodwill or Salvation Army. This was a Salvation Army. And on the door, 3 things: Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and no weapons. But what is missing? American Express is missing. So sure enough, when I went in, there was no sticker. Now, I didn't try to pay with an American Express. I used my U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve. This was before I knew of the nerfage. And it went through just fine. But then later in the week, my wife went to Salvation Army, a different one. And sure enough, verified they don't take Amex because she tried to pay with an Amex, went to the backup card instead. So yeah, at least in central Iowa, Salvation Army does not take Amex. What's weird though is I went to a different thrift store that same week. This is St. Vincent de Paul. And over here in the top right, we've got everything: Discover, Visa, MasterCard, American Express. And even over here, there's a little shop small, support small business, American Express sticker. So Protestant thrift store, nope, we don't take Amex. Catholic thrift store, yes, we do take Amex. And then I had a scare on that subject week and a half ago at Dairy Queen. The sign says Discover, MasterCard, and Visa. It does not mention American Express anywhere, but I did hand them my Amex and say, do you take this? And she said, yeah, and it ran through just fine. So even though they don't advertise that they take Amex, apparently the Dairy Queen, not too far from me, does in fact take Amex. User says, I'm in the military. Amex is losing tons on me. I can't blame them. Well, thank you for your service, user. And yeah, certainly getting all of your fees waived as active duty military is a big perk. Mike from LA says, player 2 is not looking forward to having to unsimplify her Smartly / US bar setup. This was perhaps the hardest hit from all the news. Yeah, my wife never got into mobile wallet. I tried to kind of bring her into the fold, and she just never really liked mobile wallet. She likes physically presenting a card. Bill Wright says, I went to the Superman movie 2 weeks ago, and my local theater did not take Amex. Well, that's silly. Dad says, I bought a Hyundai name, so it is no class action payment for me. Excuse me. I bought a Hyundai in Ames, sold it, so no class action payment for me. Interesting how that's sort of like coming full circle. You've just crossed over 2 different data points, the going to Ames, Salvation Army, and a Hyundai. Dennis wants a Dairy Queen banana split, please. Man, when I was a teenager, that was my go-to one. I've kind of moved away from that, but yeah, good stuff. 68 people on board, which is excellent. Keep on clicking thumbs up if you've not yet done so. Next data point. Oh, this is one of the biggies of the week, and we all knew about it. Hat tip to Doctor of Credit here. The Citi Strata Elite went live on this past Sunday. The online offer, 80,000 points. I think we all know there is, or at least was, an in-branch offer of 100,000 points. Now, frequent milers speculated the in-branch only went through the end of July, and we're now on August 2nd. So does anybody know if the in-branch offer is still going or not? Do we have any confirmations? $595 annual fee, $300 hotel, and $200 splurge credit. Let's get a little more detail on what that was. The purpose of today isn't to review the Strata Elite, but we want at least a general familiarity with it. So moving on here with what Dr. Credit has to say. We have a $600 annual fee. Okay, $595. Let's call it $600. And then $75 for each authorized user. I'm glad they went 75 and not 150. There are some discounts if you're a jillionaire and have a lot of money at Citi. It's the first World Legend MasterCard, and points now transfer to American Airlines in addition to all of their other existing transfer partners. And it actually turns out that all of their annual fee cards transfer. So the new Elite, the old Prestige, and the existing Strata Premier, which we'll be talking about today, their $95 annual fee card. Get them. The no annual fee cards, I found out earlier this week, and thanks to several of you for chiming in, if you have the double cash, the Strata, or the custom cash, you now get all of the transfer partners, except for American Airlines, as junior transfer partners. We have less ideal rates. Like, for example, I think Choice Hotels transfers 2,000 points becomes, or excuse me, 1,000 points becomes 1,400 or something like that instead of 1 to 2. Most of the airlines are 1 to 0.7, something like that. So you're probably not going to want to do a lot of point transference if you have the junior transfer partners, but at least it's an option. And then if we're looking over card benefits, there's this $300 annual hotel benefit. You have to book a 2-night stay or more through their portal. That's okay, because I can probably find a 2-night hotel stay for less than $500 and get a good discount. But yeah, I just locking in my money designated towards travel with lots of these credits that I have to use is getting kind of old. There's a $200 annual splurge credit, which is like there's certain merchants like Best Buy and some other crap, but really we're all going to use it on American Airlines. I believe the way it's worded, you can use it all on American Airlines, but don't quote me on that. Black Lane, which is a chauffeur thing, that's dumb. And you get 4 Admirals Club passes. You also get Priority Pass, but it's not the good kind. There's no restaurants. It's just the lounges. And then this next screen, I think, is related. The points earning structure is as follows. You get 12 on the portal. Meh. 12 on the portal with everything except air travel. 6 on air travel in the portal. Again, meh. You get 6x on Citi nights, which is dining Friday and Saturday nights starting at 6 p.m. That's kind of weird, but I suppose if you love the nightlife, you love to boogie, maybe it would be a good fit for you. 3x on all other dining, and then interestingly, 1.5 on all other purchases, which I like the way that's going, but it wouldn't benefit most of us because we're going to use 2x on something. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. You know, the Citi Strata Elite is now out and has some interesting things. I don't think it's something I want to jump on board with, but it is interesting. Data on Omission says, no branches here in Arizona, but I heard you can call and ask them to email the offer. I hope it comes back if it's expired. I missed my chance. That's what I heard other people doing, were like calling random branches and just saying, hey, could you email me the elevated sub? And then there was one comment of Dr. Credit that said, like, the bankers have been told they're not supposed to do that. It has to be people actually physically in the branch, but others were still breaking the rule. Hey, it's not on me if the personal banker gets in trouble. That's on them. So if you find someone to do it, great. And user says, seems like somewhere requiring that you had an existing account to get an email, but probably your mileage may vary. John R. gifted 1 Dugroz Reports membership. Ooh, mixing it up a little, John. I appreciate that. Celebrate. I really appreciate your patronage. Thank you, John. Way to help out. That's just as good as a $3 super chat. Sleepy Rod is here and says, waiting for that premium Alaska card. We shall watch your career with great interest. John R. says, reporting for duty, Dugroz. D. Green is awake and says, morning all. And Johnny Jimenez says, hello, Dugroz and everyone here. Thank you. Appreciate all that, guys. 77 people. Not too bad. Keep on clicking thumbs up. All right, now it's time for a Dugroz mea culpa. I need to admit that I made an error. I've made a critical error, and the timing for my attack has come. This actually pertains to last week's live stream where I talked about kind of my mid-year roadmap or strategy. And in that, I told you all that I had a targeted offer on my Amex Business Green Card that would get me 120,000 membership rewards points after spending $10,000 in 6 months. And I thought 10,000 is big, but 6 months, I can do it. Early this week, when I went back to actually click the button and make it a reality, I realized, oh, crud, either they changed it or I misremembered, probably the latter. It's 3 months. I don't have 6 months. Now, I'm already working on a sign-up bonus on the Triple Cash, which is a business card from US Bank, and I have to spend $4,500. I've knocked out about 2,000 of that so far, so I've got 2,500 to go. So if I add it to this, I've got 12,500 to spend in 3 months. That's just a little too rich for my blood. So I've got to shift to something else. One of my thoughts was to shift over to the new Citi Strata Elite, just see if they would take me, because I believe it's only 5,000 to spend. But after I discussed it with some other guys in the Mathnasium section of the Stack Your Points Discord, Spathco brought up a good point, which was that would you rather maybe just get like the Wells Fargo Autograph Journey, which is only a $99 annual fee? Yes, it's only 60,000 points at 80,000, but man, for those extra 20,000 points, you got a lot of flexibility with not having such a big annual fee. And I thought about that for a while. And then I thought, are there other cards that might work well on our radar? And what I'm thinking right now is there's a card that's really not exciting, hasn't changed a lot, but I think it's still a very cromulent strategy. And that's the Sapphire Preferred. Not as good as the 100,000 point welcome bonus, but we have the new 75,000 point welcome bonus, which seems to be the new standard. Not for myself, but for my wife, player 2, Mrs. Roz. I actually, when there was that very short period of time where you could get a Rakuten bonus of like 30,000 points for signing up for this card, I gave it a shot with her and it was denied. But when we called Recon, the reason it was denied was because she had had her last Sapphire bonus in less than 2 years. And the Recon person even gave us the exact date. The exact date we need to wait for is August 4th, 2025. Well, what do you know? That's only in 2 days. So on Monday, my wife can apply for this card. As of now, this could change, but it still has the ability to refer people, even if they're existing customers. And I would get a 15,000 point referral bonus. So this would be like 90,000 points. So I could get the Citi Strata Elite, 80,000 points, $600 annual fee. Or I could go for a sub of functionally 90,000 points with only a $95 annual fee. The $95 annual fee sounds a lot more desirable. Now, admittedly, maybe they'll pop up her or give her a not let her have it, even though she's under 524, even though it's been less than 2 years, she's met all the rules. So all I can do is try. So this is probably what's going to be the next sub. Admittedly, this card isn't really needed because she has the CIP, the Chase Inc. Preferred. So already has transfer partner access. I have this Sapphire Reserve. This would just be a points grab, admittedly, but a really good points grab because I can use probably my most valuable currency for the kind of stuff I do is Chase. I love the Aeroplan trick. So I think that would be a pretty solid strategy to go for this version of CSP for Mrs. Roz. D Green says, I like the Elite. I'm waiting on my letter in the mail from Citi so I can call recon. Good luck to you. Yuri SBU has arrived and says, Citi Strata Elite credits feel like me running on a track with too many hurdles. My play was to go Advantage Platinum instead for the 80K sub. Got denied. Reason, probably low velocity on Citi. Thanks for sharing that input. I appreciate it. Next Dugroz data point, it's the Dugroz Eats segment. Let me get the right screen. This is from a local Mexican restaurant. I won't say the exact name of the restaurant because I don't want to give away where I live, but this is called the Burrito Loco, also known as the Crazy Donkey. And I had it with some orange Fanta and salsa and chips, and it was good. So I'm a big fan of the highly Americanized Mexican food. Sleepy Rod says, don't you need to wait 48 months, which is 4 years for the Sapphire bonus? Oh, that's a good point. I think you're right. What year is it? Do you remember that there was a commercial for the Chicago Cubs or Allstate or something where someone's like digging in the vines at Wrigley Field and they pull out Andre Dawson and the guy's like, Andre Dawson? And he says, what year is this? It probably was 4 years ago. I'm guessing my wife got her sign-up bonus in 2021. Either way. Well, I made a mistake with the green, so maybe I made a mistake here, but I'm pretty sure this coming Monday she can apply. I'll be sure to report back in a future episode. User believes that is correct as well. I think you're both right. I just misspoke when I said 2 years. I meant to say 4 years. All right. And then what was the other big news of the week? Let me think about that for a second while I blow my nose. Give me just a second. There we go. Had to hit the unmute button. The other big news of the week was the saddest news in the history of credit card sadness. U.S. Bank confirms major changes coming to the Altitude Reserve card. Hat tip to upgraded points. And I think we all know what went down with this, but let's do a quick review here. Sometime earlier this week, I don't remember which day of the week it was, that article was updated to a link provided by U.S. Bank itself. So this is now 100% official. It's not just rumor anymore. U.S. Bank themselves confirming it in writing. And they are as follows. We've got some changes that will take place on December 15th. First of all, 3x on mobile wallet will be capped at $5,000 per monthly billing cycle. Not a huge deal to me, but might be for someone else. The $325 annual credit, which used to be a travel or dining credit, and you could use it on restaurants, fast food, takeout, delivery, vending machines, if they code as dining. You could use it on pretty much any kind of travel, Hertz car rental, Enterprise car rental, a sleep in, Jim's Motel in Donaldson, Iowa. As long as it coded as travel, it credited you. It was a very broad travel credit, much like the CSR. Not anymore. Now it is a coupon. It only works through the travel center. So much the same as what Capital One has done. Not a total nerf on that aspect, but a mild to moderate nerf. Of course, the total nerf was this. It used to be that 10,000 points are equal to $150. In other words, 1.5 cents per point when redeemed for travel, either real-time rewards or in their portal. As of December 15th, nope, it's going to be penny points. So that's a huge devaluation. That's worth 33% less. I can't speak to everyone, but in my case, as far as I'm aware, I exclusively used real-time rewards. I don't believe I ever redeemed for anything else, which means every single redemption that I've done, if I were to repeat those, would now be worth 33% less. Bum, bum, ba, ba. So if you wanted more information on that, I released a video earlier this week called US Bank Just Ruined the Altitude Reserve. You can see the shock and awe on my face there. And you can hear a little bit of singing if that interests you. And if you happened to be a channel member, you would have been invited to the late night US Bar Nerf therapy session, which was either Monday or Tuesday night, one of the two. That video is still available. So now it's time for my shameless plug. here at Dugroz Reports. I do have channel memberships. There's one and only one membership level. It's called a Dugroz Diehard. It's only $3 a month, and you can cancel anytime. What are the advantages? Well, you get live streams like this that only members are invited to. There's over 50 members only videos. I should have one coming soon, and I apologize, members. I know since I got back from vacation, I've only had this one thing for members only. Also, early releases. Most, not all, of my videos are a day early for members. It's a great way to support the channel. Again, $3 a month. You can cancel anytime. If you want to sign up for 1 month, like user JS0239 did, we'll have a little celebration if you do it during the live stream. You can binge all those videos and then cancel. I don't mind. Also, I try to recognize my members when they make lots of contributions. So if you would be willing to consider that, that would help out my channel. 80% of whatever I get goes reinvested into my channel for technology, desks, little upgrades, those kind of things. And then 20% goes into my family budget because, let's face it is kind of like a part-time job. So my family needs to be able to pay the bills. Helps fight inflation. All right, I'm way behind on comments here, so I'll get caught up right now. This, I think, relates to the comment regarding the Sapphire Preferred. I think now they'll let you get the card but deny you a sub before they would deny you if you couldn't get the sub. I've heard that. Chad's Money Minutes is here. Yo, how you doing, Chad? Good to see you. And Dad on Mish says, I love the song intro on the US Bank video. Thank you. Some people saying hi to each other. Rodell Media is here. I don't think we've met before, Rodell. Good to see you. Yeah, Altitude Reserve is so sad now. I agree. Dad, we knew what you meant when you said that. I appreciate it. Chris Sevi says, do we think the U.S. bar will add anniversary points to offset the total annual fee? A direct copy of the Venture X. That's actually a good theory because in my experience, every year when I call for a retention offer, and this is a very easy retention offer, you don't have to jump through hoops, they just give you the points. They've always given me either 5,000, 10,000, or 15,000. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just say, everybody gets 5,000 points. I don't know. Matt Clausen says, I'm still curious what US Bank does for pay yourself back. I think there's a lot more that hasn't been disclosed. You might be right. User says, nah. You know, from my point of view, my annual fee will hit in February. So I'm hoping we get a lot of information before February. I've got plenty of time to decide. But yeah, that's all I'll say about that for now. The Eternal Vortex has arrived and drops $1.99 as a super chat. Celebrate, celebrate. Thank you, Vortex. I really appreciate that. That'll go a long ways. Good morning and happy August. Happy August to you indeed. And Rodell says, we'll have to see what transfer partners they're going to have. Indeed, although I'm not overly optimistic. I bet it'll be a pretty bland slate of partners, much like Wells Fargo. He did it again, folks. He did it again. Mike Newland drops 20 Dugroz Reports memberships. Whoa. Celebrate, celebrate. Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate that. That's just as good as a $60 super chat. Coming in strong. Thank you, Mike. You are my benefactor. Way to go, Mike. And some people saying hi to each other. John R. mentions Mike Newland coming in hot, hot indeed. Clairvoyant says, good morning, Doug. I met you in January of 2024. You were the only one reporting on the US Bar mobile wallet issue. The days of unlimited cash back beyond 3% are gone, my friend. It does certainly seem that way. The times they are a-changin'. User says, I think it's tough beyond 2%. Over anything over that has gotchas or hoops. Hey, we're up to 87 people. Let's see if we can get 100. If anybody sees 100 concurrently, let me know. Double says Mike is the GOAT. Oh, I thought you had to leave. I'm glad you're back. John says, my annual fee hits on the US bar. I disclosed what I'm doing on my channel. I remember that. You've got a little bit of time. I think you've got about a month between annual fee and when the changes happen or something like that. Unlimited being the key word. Yeah, lots of caps nowadays. Very generous indeed. Mike for the win. Mike is a gift to the credit card community we don't deserve, Mike. That's how I feel, Sleepy Rod. Thank you for the comments. I appreciate it, everyone. All right. We will keep going here with this. Speaking of Dugroz diehards, it's always important to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries. So let's all wish a big happy 12-month of channel membership anniversary to X Xavier ID, who joined as a Dugroz diehard 12 months ago. Thank you so much for your patronage, Xavier. I really appreciate it. Mr. 1099. Oh, hey, look, Kevin P drops a $10 super chat. So big of a comment, I have to sit upright, have better posture. Celebrate, celebrate. Thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate that. That goes a long ways. Wow, everybody, you've blown me away with your generosity. That really helps kind of inflation-proof my family. Part of the reason I do YouTube is I realize I'm not anywhere close to being a full-time content creator, but my regular boring corporate office job, I get, that standard 1 to 3% every year as a raise. I feel like doing YouTube is my inflationary adjustment that makes up for those lackluster raises. Kevin P says Citi has for the last 2 years been my number one issuer. With recent changes, Chase is now number 3 and Amex takes the number 2 spot. I got the AA executive and all personal thank you point earning cards except for the AT&T card. Wow, Kevin, that's a lot of diligence because getting a full panoply of Citi cards is hard to do. We used to have the Citi quartet. Hello, 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 hello. If I ever got all 4, I was going to do a singing video that somehow pays homage to like a barbership quartet. But they used to have the Premier or Prestige, whichever one, the double cash, the rewards plus to get you your extra 10%, and then the custom cash. If you got all 4, you had the Citi quartet. Well, now the rewards plus has gone away. If you have both the Strata and the Strata Prestige, it seems like those have so much overlap, it's kind of pointless. So the nowadays Citi quartet would be like either a Prestige, Premier, or Elite, one of those, and then a double cash and 2 custom caches or something like that. Again, thank you so much, Kevin. I greatly appreciate it. I'm just going to take a quick look at the donations, make sure I didn't accidentally miss anyone. I missed someone either last week or the week before. I think it was Texas Dog. I mentioned you at the very end, but I didn't celebrate as we were going. I sincerely apologize for that, Texas Dog. So celebrate, celebrate. Thank you for last week's donation. JC says, happy celebration Sunday, Dugroz. Good to see you on board, JC. Matt says, U.S. bar issues are a direct consequence of Smartly and everyone who broke that. Yes, and I realize people broke that, and that's why anything more than 2% comes with hoops nowadays, but they should have seen it coming. I feel like had they said like, hey, random employee who works in the credit card marketing department, why don't you go to any credit card board and tell them what we're promoting and ask them, can you think of any way to hack this? And you would have found out in about 30 seconds. Mess around, find out. Miles to the Mouse says, after my nerf letters from US Bank, I'm going whole hog on the banned purchases, taxes, tuition, and insurance. Do you have like a little period of time to do that? Or is this on the Altitude Reserve rather than the Smartly? Because, yeah, you do have until December 15th. Just to spite them. Oh, that's right. Miles to the Mouse is actually Chad Pennycuff. You changed your clothes. Thank you for reminding me. I appreciate that. Tariq Burks has arrived and says nothing, but he gives us $2 donation. Celebrate, celebrate. Thank you, Tariq. I really appreciate that. That $2 will certainly help out. And Texas Dog has accepted my apology for not celebrating with him last week. So let's do it now with this brand new $1.99 super chat. Celebrate, celebrate. Thank you for your forgiveness. Dennis says 92. Can we get to 100? Keep on clicking thumbs up. I do think there's something in the algorithm related to donations as well. So even if you can't afford much, a 99-cent super sticker is appreciated. I actually saw a 49-cent super sticker on my own options once. I don't know if that's an option here. Whoever gives a super sticker worth less than 99 cents will get 1,000 Dugroz points today. Texas Dog. Absolutely. All right. Is there anything else going on? All right. We're close to the end of the Dugroz data point segment. We've only got one left. I had mentioned not too long ago, I think it was just last week, in fact, that I had a targeted offer on my CVS card. Whoops. I had a targeted offer on my Capital One Venture X card to use at CVS, and they would give me 15 miles up to a maximum of 1,000 extra miles. That comes out to around $67 and change. So I went to the CVS near me here in the greater Des Moines area and purchased a Uber gift card and loaded that into my Uber account, one of the easier gift cards to use, for $70. And I was talking with Mertz's Collectibles on one of the Discords about it, and he noticed that it specifically excludes gift cards. And I'm like, it was a risk worth taking. If I missed out on $2 or $3 of opportunity cost, I'm not going to cry about it. But I also thought in my head, like most places other than Amex don't really have any mechanism to enforce that. All they see is the purchase. They don't see what you bought. I said Mertz Collectibles. Now he just goes by Mertz, and he has his own channel. Check that out. But the good news is a few days later, it happened. I got my miles. I got my message here that my miles were awarded 1,000 miles at CVS. So thank you again, Capital One, holding up their end of the bargain and doing what they said they would do. Actually, doing a little bit more than their end of the bargain. So thank you, Capital One. And that concludes the Dugroz data points. Thank you, everyone. We're up to 84 people here. We dropped just a little, so we'll transition into the theme of the day here. The theme of the day today is the Strata Premiere. Is it now actually good? Now, confession time here. I normally like make my PowerPoint and then proofread it. Last night I was up till 12:45, so there was no proofreading. So if I have spelling errors or like a random animation that doesn't work, or I don't know, a picture of a horse flies onto the screen or something like that, a golden pony, please forgive me. Quick nose blow. Thank you for your patience. JC has dropped a $2 super chat. Thank you so much. Nick of Frequent Miler says Strata Premiere plus US bar combo 3X floor. Yeah. Hey, that's not a bad idea. I guess I was going to say, I wish the US Bank Altitude Reserve would get something more than penny points. I suppose, depending on transfer partners, you could argue they do, but I feel like we'll need to wait and see. Thank you for sharing Nick's idea. And Clairvoyant says, thanks for giving me the idea to buy a money order at Walmart and then just address it to yourself and cash it to close the loop. It only cost me $1 at my Walmart. Well, you're sure welcome. I am glad that worked out for you, Clairvoyant. And of course, he's talking Visa gift cards, maybe MasterCard gift cards. There was an issue with MasterCard gift cards about 3 years ago where they weren't as reliable. That may be outdated info, but if I have the choice between a Visa and a MasterCard prepaid gift card, I always buy the Visa. Jay says, this is quoting Nick Reyes, a frequent miler. I feel like 3x transferable points per dollar might become the new floor for most of my spend. Heavily depends on what the US bar transfer partners are. Well, like I said, I'm mourning the loss of the Altitude Reserve right now, but I will be glad to eat crow. We'll do a live stream from a restaurant and eat some crow, which will probably be like a chicken quesadilla or something, if that happens. All right. So let me go full screen, then we'll talk about it here, and away we go. Today's theme of the day, did the Strata Premiere get good this week? Well, before I go there, let's just review what the Strata Premiere is. For some reason, Citibank doesn't like to keep you on the screen that you were on, so I have to find it. Here it is. Okay. So what is the Citi Strata Premiere? This is sort of their mid-level travel card, the $95 annual fee card. It's been around for quite a while. It was known as the Strata Premiere. Then it was known as the Premiere. Then it was known as the Citi Strata Premiere, which they changed the name and added EV charging along with gas as a category. And it gave Matt Clausen a coronary. He did not care for that. I felt it was a dumb rollout too, but water under the bridge. If you sign up brand new, the standard sign-up offer is 60,000 bonus points. Every now and then they'll raise it to 80,000, and that's after spending $4,000 in 3 months. a respectable sub, but I'm not so interested in the sub. I'm interested in this stuff, which is the categories. And to be a little more specific with that, I actually had a Premiere at one point. By the way, if I accidentally say Prestige, please forgive me. The Citi Strata Premiere, I had one, got the sign-up bonus, and was 80,000 points. A little under a year ago, I product changed it to a second Citi Custom Cash. So what I had going on was the CSP, a single Custom Cash, and the Rewards Plus. That was my Citi trio for a while. The Citi Rewards Plus has now been forcibly changed into a Strata card, which is kind of useless for me because of what I'm going to describe a little later here. And then the Citi Strata Premier was changed into a second Custom Cash. So as it stands right now, I have Strata, which is the more generic no annual fee one, Strata, Custom Cash, Custom Cash. That's what I have right now. But I could change back into this guy pretty easily. 10x on hotels, car rentals, and attractions in the Chase portal. 3x on air travel and other hotel purchases. So this is 3x on travel with anyone, but it's only airlines and hotels. It doesn't include cruises, tolls, trains, those kind of things. 3x on restaurants, 3x on groceries, also known as supermarkets, and 3x on gas and EV charging, 1 point per dollar on everything else. There is a $100 annual hotel benefit, $100 off a single hotel stay booked through their portal of $500 or more. I'll probably never use this because I can't imagine a scenario where I'm going to want to book a cash hotel through a portal and not use some other trick like the altitude reserve before it gets nerfed, the Aeroplan trick, Hilton points, Choice points, Hyatt points, whatever. I just think the odds of me actually using this, I don't travel enough that I'm plowing through all my other options. And this is option maybe 7 or 8 in line of the best way to book a hotel for me. Again, $95 annual fee, and it transfers to all of their partners, including nowadays American Airlines. But we'll come back to that in a little more detail in just a few moments. Fleet Easily. I don't think we've met before. Fleet, how you doing? Good to have you on board. For the CVS Capital One bonus offer, is that possible to use buying a gift card? Yes, that's what I did. I bought a gift card. I bought an Uber gift card, and it seemed to work out just fine. The terms say no, but what I was trying to say is functionally it worked for me. Your mileage may vary. JC says, my first rewards card was a Citi Premier back in 2009. The card was recommended by a personal finance book I read. Interesting. Matt Clausen says, when Citi goes all in on coupons, they're going to be time dependent, like $10 a month on Uber, but only on Sundays from 3 to 8 a.m. Yeah, probably. Dennis said we briefly had 98. Let's get to 100. We're at 97 now. Keep making your comments. Keep clicking thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Any little tiny donation helps. JC points out that as bad as the Elite is right now, so far, there's no monthly coupons. And Matt says, Citi also hilariously now has 2 paths you can take for capabilities. The Elite plus Strata for decent everyday earnings, gas and EV, grocery, and a rotator on the Strata, and 3x on the Elite and a 1.5 base. You're kind of stealing my thunder there, Matt. Hang in there just a bit. The other setup is double cash plus Premier plus AA executive card. For now. Then when they change. All right. Let's bigonize this screen a little and keep on going here. So did the Strata Premier get good this week? Well, let's talk about it a little bit. First of all, I do need to mention the path method for choosing your cards on everyday spend is a series I started before the end of June when I went on vacation. And I've got 4 parts that I need to do. Hilton, boutique hotels, those 2 parts are done. And still to come are cheap domestic airfare and rental cars. This episode has something to do with the domestic airfare. This is an excursus. I had to evaluate Citi and American Airlines before I know how domestic airlines are going to fit in my upcoming strategy. So for those of you who may be new to the channel or don't know, for the next 1.5 to 2 years, I'm going to probably only be traveling domestically. I like to go to places like waterfalls in West Virginia, visit presidential graves, the UP of Michigan, upstate New York, Pensacola, Florida. So I'm not necessarily going to the big cities. So my travel involves a lot of cheap domestic airfare because I live in Des Moines, Iowa, which is not a hub. So you have to just kind of take what you get. So I'm trying to figure out a good way to make that domestic travel cheap airfare without it being terrible. Like I don't want to fly a bunch on Allegiant. But if I have to, I have to. So this is an excursus. We're coming back to the path method. This will help me formulate my last two segments of the path method in the future. Well, what did happen since Sunday of last week, which was July 27th, 2025? There were two things. So this is thing one of two. We already touched on it. US Bank pooped on us. There's no more 1.5 on real-time rewards after December 15th. The 5K is capped per month on mobile wallet. And then the $325 credit is now a portal coupon, which forces us into the portal rather than being able to use exclusively real-time rewards. So I'm looking for a replacement to the Altitude Reserve. The way I used it will be severely kneecapped. Even if they have good transfer partners, how am I going to do my cheap domestic airfare that I could have put on this and had the joy of 1.5? How am I going to do my rental cars that I was doing? Again, even if they have great transfer partners. See, here's one of those mistakes I mentioned. This is actually thing 2 of 2, not 1 of 2. Told you I didn't proofread. So thing 2 of 2 was Citi announced American Airlines as a transfer partner. I mean, we all knew it was coming, but we just didn't know the details of how it was going to come. And that all popped out last Sunday like a screaming baby. The Strata Elite launched their $600 card, which we talked about, but a little less fanfare, but very important is it also applies to the CSP, the Citi Strata Premier. And I realize it's confusing because there's the Chase Sapphire Preferred, the Citi Strata Premier, both CSP. If I say CSP for the rest of this presentation, you can safely assume 95% chance I'm talking about this guy, the Citi Strata Premier. So yes, American Airlines is now a transfer partner of all of their annual fee cards. 1-to-1 even. It's not even nerfed. I thought it would be like, maybe the Elite and the Prestige get 1-to-1, or the Prestige is going to go away or be merged into the Elite. So I thought whatever their expensive card was might have 1-to-1, and the CSP might get 1 to 0.75 or 1 to 0.5 or something like that. But hey, 1-to-1. So let's actually address some comments here before I move along. JC says, if US Bank features better partners than Wells, which is a low bar to clear, I'll keep rolling with US Bar and Strata Premier, plus or minus the Amex Gold. Yeah, not a bad strategy. I wouldn't incorporate the gold personally, but that's just the way I do things. Matt says, the best you can hope for US Bank is Korean Air. Yep, I did think about and mention on one of Matt's live streams not too long ago, maybe not a live stream, maybe just a video, that US Bank issues the Korean Airlines card in the United States. So I would assume they'd be able to talk Korean Air into being a transfer partner, which would be unique, but I don't know if it will really matter. Clairvoyant says for 2026, it'll be retention offers, reevaluate in 2027. It's good to have a plan, but be ready to change because you never know. Chris Sevi says, how many abuse the US bar with manufactured spend? With the wider adoption of Apple Pay, a spending cap was probably necessary. Possibly. I've always understood it this way, and admittedly, I'm no stranger to buying gift cards in a strategic manner, both co-branded as well as prepaid Visas and MasterCards. My understanding has always been American Express is the most sensitive to gift card buying. US Bank is maybe in second place. They're somewhat sensitive. There was an article or a mention on Frequent Miler like 7 years ago that they interviewed some executive at US Bank, and they said, if you go to the store and buy, a $50 gift card, $100 gift card here and there, that's normal behavior and that's no problem whatsoever. If you're buying $500 gift cards every 4 days over and over and over again, we're going to do something about it. I've squeaked in a little bit of gift card buying with US Bank, and it's never been a problem as long as I keep it kind of moderate. So I can't really tell you. Honestly, if it was only the spending cap, if that was the only change, I'd say, okay, I get that. And it wouldn't really personally affect me because I only spend around $10,000 a year on the altitude reserve. So obviously I'm not hitting $5,000 in any given month. Good point though, Chris. I appreciate that. Sleepy Rod says the Citi Strata Elite application in December would be enticing. 100K bonus if still around, plus a potential triple dip on some of the credits. Yes, because Citi's credits on this card are calendar year. So you could do like late December of 2025, anytime in 2026, and then say your renewal date was December 15th, you would still have until January 15th, 2027. So those first 15 days of 2027 to do the third and triple dip. JC says, give me Aeroplan for US Bar and I'll be happy. Oh man, if they come out with a travel eraser at 1.25, I would be happy also. Rex says, the one downside from AA transfers from thank you points is no LPs versus AA Advantage cards. Liquid propane points is what you're talking about. Versus Advantage cards. It's a dilemma I live with alone, it so seems. Today's presentation is going to be how to use American from my point of view. And my point of view is intermittent travel. You know, I'm flying maybe 3 to 7 times a year. So I'm not going to get status. If I need an upgrade to premium economy, I'm just going to pay for it. So that really doesn't impact me, but I could definitely see how for certain people it would. Matt says, I still think smartly ruined the US bar versus MS. They did some hard shutdowns on MS. Okay, that would support the somewhat sensitive, the big dogs get slaughtered kind of thing, big hogs that I mentioned. Scott says, I got my wife to tap for the US bar for everything. Now I have to explain why we may not do that very much longer. That would be annoying because it takes a while for player 2 to come around. My wife seems to struggle when American Express isn't available. I have the Venture X as the backup card and a US Bank Cash Plus as the emergency only card, just because the number of cards issued in both of our names isn't very broad. There have been a large handful of times she's grabbed the wrong card and put a purchase that would be 2x on the 1% cash back on the US Bank card. And the rationale is they're both blue. So we need more colorful cards. If one was orange and one was blue, that'd make it a lot easier. Rex drops a $1.99 super chat, chasing platinum executive for 2025. Awesome. 2026. Celebrate. I appreciate that, Rex. And dun 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 dun. I just spotted 103 people on board simultaneously. Time for a super celebration. Celebrate good times. Come on. All right. Thank you, everyone, for helping me get over 100 concurrent viewers. And thank you so much, Rex. Celebrate. Don't remember if I did that or not. I appreciate your patronage. JC says, you get value out of status, then chase those LPs. Clairvoyant says, daily fantasy sports plus the US bar meant tens of thousands for me and others. Oh, that's right. Some people have very unique use cases. Mouse of the Mouse says, US bar is a pain in the hind end at $500 Disney gift cards. You have to spend at least $515 to get them to approve, and then it's limited. You can't run a train. I can only buy 8 to 16 in a 2-week period. Well, is that all? Maybe we can touch base offline exactly how that works, because I'm curious. But Clairvoyant, you have a very unique use case with your fantasy sports playing. Chad, you have a very unique use case with living and breathing all things Disney and buying, what, $30,000 of Disney gift cards every year? Something like that. We'll just keep on moving past that statement there. Yep, talking about liquid propane some more. TH also drops a $2 super chat. Celebrate. Thank you, TH. I got the Elite on the first day. Celebrate. Indeed, thank you for your patronage, and I'm glad you got approved. D Green was the first commenter to notice 100. Celebrate. Clairvoyant says, simplicity is dead. With the altitude reserve, you can get 80% of the rewards with 1/5 of the effort. That was my favorite thing about the US Bank altitude reserve, and we'll get back to that. Chris Sevi mentions Costco gift Costco Gold manufactured spend. I won't get into that. Maybe we can touch base offline if you'd like. AA has great connectivity to the Caribbean via Miami and Europe via Dallas Fort Worth, which is near me. Thanks, JC. 103 says Dennis. John says a woot. Texas dog is excited. Sally is here. Good to see you this morning, Sally. 103, Sally Beery. Too Easy says Aeroplan cards looking good after this news. You read my mind. We'll talk about that a little later. LP liquid propane rewards points. That is a much more energetic goal. Yuck, yuck. Oh, energy. Maybe that could be one of the new Dugroz reports transfer partners when you get Dugroz points. You can fill your propane tank. Well, if you're doing it at Tractor Supply Store anyway, that won't matter. All right. Welcome aboard, all 100 of you. Let's keep going with our theme of the day here. All right. So we had those changes. 2 changes. The altitude reserve got pooped on, and AA was added to Citi's annual fee cards. So here's the question. Moving forward into the future, let's say end of this year, moving into 2026, which cards can I use for about 1.5 cents per point on flights? And I call it the joy of 1.5. As Clairvoyant mentioned, simplicity is dead, but I love simplicity. So if I can get 1.5 cents per point on just generic domestic flights, we're not talking expensive seats. We're not flying across the Atlantic Ocean on flying Blue Miles. We're not taking Virgin Atlantic to China. We're not taking Japan Airlines, first class or anything like that. We just want to fly from Des Moines to Pittsburgh with a layover in St. Louis or something like that. In regular old economy, hopefully I don't have to get a middle seat. Which cards can I use for that? Well, the way my setup is right now, I've got just a handful of plays. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plays. We got the Chase Sapphire Reserve, which as of right now has the portal 1.5 minimum on everything because I have the grandfathered version. Up until December 15th, we have the aforementioned altitude reserves, real-time rewards. I love my Aeroplan trick, transferring Chase points over and waiting for the right timing, the right bonuses, and ending up with a functional 1.625 cents per point. So that's an option. Right now, my wife has an Amex Business Platinum card. So within certain if this, then this, if this, then this, you can use point rebates to get just over 1.5 cents per point on those. And then, of course, the aforementioned Golden Ponies card, which is changing designs. For those of you who don't know, that's a grandfathered Wells Fargo card that is no longer open to new applicants. That gives you 1.5 cents per point in the Wells Fargo portal for flights only. Mixed data points on whether or not you can product change to it. Some people say you can. Some people say you cannot. Well, not all of these options are going to be alive much longer. Sapphire Reserve is going away sometime. I don't remember the exact deadline where the 1.5 guaranteed minimum in the Chase portals going away. I think it's about a year from now. Then they're going to go with points boost. Some flights will get more than 1.5, but there's no guarantee you're going to get anything more than 1. Comments around the web have made it sound like United tends to be higher, but if you're just taking a generic American flight from Des Moines to Denver, the odds of that being boosted are very, very small. So certainly, while it might exist here and there, it's not going to be reliable, and I doubt I'm keeping my Sapphire Reserve much longer. I'm paying the annual fee right about now, so I'll get in old annual fee, new benefits for 1 year, but in a year, I won't have that option anymore. And then, of course, we already talked about how the altitude reserve is getting nerfed on December 15th. And then the Amex Business Platinum, I put a yellow cross on it because the option will still kind of be there, but it's becoming a little more restrictive. It used to be your chosen airline and any business or first class. So let's say I took that flight from Des Moines to Denver on United, but they weren't my chosen airline. Say I had Delta as my chosen airline. If I get first class, which on that flight might only be $50 more than economy, I could use the points rebate, 35% points rebate, which gets me 1.54 cents per point. But that's going away. Now it's only on your chosen airline, even if it's business or first class. So if I choose Delta, I'm stuck with Delta. If I choose United, I'm stuck with United. If I choose American, I'm stuck with American. If I choose Southwest, I'm stuck with Southwest for the entire calendar year. So I don't have as much flexibility. That's a big deal when you live in a small regional airport like Des Moines, Iowa, that's not a hub of any kind, because I need the freedom to pick whatever airline I need to pick. American is the one that works the most, but it's not even a majority. It's more of a plurality, maybe 40 to 45% of the time. All right, I'll catch up on some comments here. We didn't go very far. October of 2027 is when the CSR benefits that were grandfathered for existing users will run out. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. I think it'll change. You think it'll be extended, or you think it'll come sooner? Just curious. Moving on. All right, so let's talk about the problems with the remaining options, which, again, the ones that didn't get nerfed or aren't getting nerfed, as far as I know, are Aeroplan and the Golden Ponies. Aeroplan. What would I think about using Aeroplan for cheap flights? Well, there are some drawbacks. It is a great option at a functional 1.625 cents per point, but it is capped at 200,000 per card each year. Because that's 1.25 cents per point built in, that's functionally $5,000 per year. So just to explain what I mean by that, for those of you who might not know, the Aeroplan card issued by Chase, yes, you can use it for Aeroplan itself, which I've never done. But I mean, I've never flown on Air Canada metal ever. You can use it to erase any travel at 1.25 cents per point. If you have the card, you transfer over and transfer bonus, and at the right time and in the right amount, you can get a 30% bonus. So 1.3 times 1.25 becomes 1.625. That's how I get that figure that's shown on the screen there. Once it gets to Aeroplan, 200,000 is the most you can use each year. So you take 200,000 times 1.25 cents per point. That comes out to $2,500 of usage per card. If I have two cards, that's $5,000 per year. But we got to think a little more than that, because honestly, I'm probably not going to come up with 400,000 Chase points each year. The functional limit is how many Chase points can I earn? That's the greater problem. And I remember, like I said, I didn't proofread this. I was debating, is that how you say greater, or did I get it backwards? But whether I wrote it correctly or not, the greater problem is how many Chase points can I earn? In the past, I've been able to milk the ink train for all it's worth, but referrals on that are going away, so I won't be able to refer player two. She won't be able to refer me because it's only for new customers starting in a month or two. And then we've tried a couple applications. We've both been denied at least once in the last 12 months for a new ink card. I'll probably give it one more shot before the end of the referral period is out, but I'm not holding my breath. So yeah, there's the functional limit, is how many Chase points can I earn? That's the greater problem. I can still earn quite a few Chase points. I like to milk the Freedom Flex and Freedom cards for all they're worth when the rotating category works out. For example, when the stars aligned perfectly about a week ago, and there was a deal on prepaid Visa and MasterCard cards at Hy-Vee, and the rotating category was gas, and Hy-Vee owned a gas station. I think you can see where this is going. I'm able to earn a fair amount of Chase points, but sign-up bonuses being the big deal, that's become a lot harder than it used to be. Another function is I will want to use my Aeroplan points for other hard-to-cover things. So there's a lot more ways to cover flights than there are to cover like meals in the hotel, than there are to cover tolls, museums, parking lots, attractions, those kind of things. I really like saving my Aeroplan points for those kind of things if they're going to become harder to come up with. In fact, depending on my Chase velocity, there's a good chance the next 24 months or so, it's going to make sense for us to go down to just one Aeroplan card in the household and save on that $99 annual fee. Now, this year, when we went to England, Wales, and Austria, I totally maxed out my wife's card on one trip, and not maxed out the card as in like the credit limit, but in terms of this, the $200K each per year, I maxed that out and I used about half of mine. So it's been huge for us this year, but I don't know how much longer I'll be able to generate large quantities of Chase points. And then as it relates to the Wells Fargo Classic Visa Signature Card, it's a great option, 1.5 cents per point in the portal. I used it to reposition us from Des Moines to New York City on our last vacation. Family of 4 got 1.5 on a relatively run-of-the-mill Delta flight. But there is a functional limit of how many Wells Fargo points can I earn? And the answer is not many. Yeah, I have the autograph, and it gives 3 points on a variety of things. I have the signature, what's it called? Signify business card, which gets 2x on everything. But man, even if I spend $10,000 a year, that's not that many, 10,000, even if it is 3x, 30,000, that gets me $450 worth of flights. If I'm flying solo, that's about 1.5 flights, because $300 is kind of the average coming out of Des Moines. If I'm flying with a family, that'll cover less than half of us. So the functional limit of how many Wells Fargo points I can earn in a year is really going to hold me back. And there's no way to get lots and lots of sign-up bonuses. Obviously, if my wife gets the autograph journey, that'll help, but it's not really sustainable. I'll take a look at some comments now. Backing up. JC says, for those that have the US Bank Altitude Reserve, do you need a banking relationship with US Bank to get it? In the past, you did have to. You had to have at least one other product, which could be like another credit card. Some people said they opened a $1,000 CD for 6 months and then applied, and that worked. But we just don't know what they're going to do. First of all, we don't know for sure they're going to open it to new applicants. I think they will. Secondly, we don't know what those kind of rules will be. Matt says, I think they're going to revisit and raise the floor at some point. Depends on finances in 6 months. Well, I sure hope so. Dimitri G drops a 99-cent super sticker, keeping that algorithm going. Celebrate. I think I said whoever the first person is to drop a super sticker under 99 cents gets the 1,000 points, but I'll give you half credit, Dimitri. 500 Dugroz points. JC says 200K annual cap is more than fine for domestic travel. If I'm flying solo, yes. If I'm with my family, not so much. Chris said, I had no relationship with US Bank at the time I applied for the US Bank Altitude Reserve. I was 024 or 124 at the time. Great. That's good to know. I misspoke with what I said. User says, I've been rejected multiple times when I went through this bar. I opened a checking account and then I got it. Okay. Mertz is here. Hey, I mentioned you earlier. Your ears must be tingling. I'm catching up at 1.25 speed. I went and bought a Target gift card at CVS right after you confirmed your data point. Thanks again. You're sure welcome. A Target gift card is good as cash with ways my wife buys overpriced crap there. I think a lot of us related to you just now. Brian Jackson has arrived, 100 watching. Yeah, we had a big time celebration earlier. Thanks, Brian. Available for lunch? Probably. We'll see what the boys want to do today. Let me make my screen bigger again. Could I get the CSP and American Airlines and fill that gap? The gap that is now coming in with no more easy to get 1.5 cents per point on cheap domestic flights. There is no Citi portal boost. So it's not like the Citi portal has a 1.5 like the Chase did, unfortunately. Now, I think years ago they actually did. In fact, I know they did at one point. I'm not sure how far back you have to go on that. Any Citi veterans able to confirm how long ago they got rid of their 1.25 portal boost? But how reliable would earning AA points be for my domestic flying? That's what we're going to spend the majority of the remainder of our time trying to find out here. Is what would it look like if I don't want to say commit to American Airlines. I'm not going to say they're my partner for flying, but if I lean into American Airlines, right now I said maybe 40%. What if I took that up to 75%? What would that look like? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's by doing the math. You got to go out and grab some examples. So the first four examples that I grabbed were not cherry picked. These are all places that I either have gone or would want to go. And I didn't cherry pick. I just picked dates I'm likely to actually do it. And whatever the math came out to, that's what the math came out to. The first example is flying from Des Moines, Iowa to Dallas, Fort Worth. I live in Des Moines, so every single example is either going to be flying from or to Des Moines, one of the two. On Friday, October 17th, 2025, I do have a friend that lives in Dallas, and I've thought about going to see him. It would be cool if one day we had a Crater meetup in Dallas, because that would be an actual direct flight for me. Looking at American Airlines on the day that I had in mind, because on RIP trips, I frequently fly on Saturdays. I found 7,000 miles plus $5.60, and that's a nonstop in main cabin. And the same flight on Google Flights would be $382. 7,000 miles. Well, that's not bad at all. That's the cash equivalent of only $70. Add your $5, you got $75 for a domestic one-way flight. Way better than that $300 average I often think of here in Des Moines. And if you're wondering, that comes out to 5.3 cents per point. Awesome. 5.3 cents per point. Close the book. We're done. And after doing my first example, I thought to myself, oh, this is going to be great. It's kind of like, I haven't gone golfing in years, but you ever go golfing and like on the very first hole, you get a double birdie or something like that. And you're like, I am so good at golf. Why don't I play in amateur tournaments? I'm quite good at this. And then as soon as you hit the second, third hole, you're like, oh yeah, it was kind of like that. So my first at bat, first pitch was a home run. Let's see how I do in the rest of my pitches here. Example number 2, we're going to fly from Des Moines to Phoenix. I have in-laws that live in Arizona. They don't live in Phoenix, but that's the closest major airport to where they live. So on December 22nd, hey, going for Christmas. I'm sure grandma would love to see us at Christmas. 31,500 miles. That's a lot more than 7,000, but it is 3 days before Christmas, so you know prices are going to be high. $5.60. And like I said, $654. That $300 average is looking a lot more realistic now. Nonstop flight, and that comes to 2.16 cents per point. Okay, solid. Not exciting, but solid. You know, again, we're looking to replace that 1.5-ish, so 2.1 would definitely work. So we got a home run on our first at bat. Got maybe a double or a good quality single on the second at bat. How about the third example here? I'm going to fly from Des Moines, Iowa to Charlottesville, Virginia. I went there for a RIP trip about 1.5 years ago. We're going to fly on a Friday in April. That's when I often go on my spring trips. So very realistic. A lot less exciting, 21,500 miles. This has one stop. It's a layover at New York LaGuardia, and the cash price is $244. That's only 1 cent per point. So it's meh. It's not special. It's not great. Doesn't even get to the 1.5 standard. And then example number 4, I'm going to go from Pensacola, Florida back to Des Moines. I actually did this in real life a year or 2 ago at the end of a RIP trip. I almost always fly back on Tuesdays. You got 29,500 miles. We have a layover somewhere. It doesn't say where. I think it's in Dallas, but don't quote me on that. I cut the screen off there. $290, which comes out to less than 1 cent per point, 0.96 cents per point. Okay, well, I guess I got lucky on that first one. So what did we find out with our non-cherry-picked examples? We found out in our brief 4-trip non-cherry-picked examples that we had an average of 2.3 cents per point, but that first one, the one where I flew to Dallas, really heavily influenced that average in a disproportionate manner. I had one great option, one solid option, and then 2 that were meh. So only 50% on replacing that 1.5. Okay, well, we probably need a little more data, but before I get a little more data, let's pause for a moment and catch up on comments here. Brady Smith's on board. Good to see you, Brady. I have gotten 19 cards in 24 months. I just don't care about multipliers. Is there something I'm missing? I don't think there are. I don't think there is, Brady. I actually made a video a long time ago called multipliers or category bonuses almost don't matter. They do in some cases, but if you're going full film on mostly just doing sign-up bonuses, which obviously are rated just under one per month or just over one per month, can't argue with that. American Airlines has great redemption rates for short domestic flights. What is a rip trip? I'm glad you asked. Who else wants to answer that for him? R stands for rental. That's a car, a rental car to get you where you want to go. I stands for inn, I-N-N, like a hotel. You got to sleep, bro. P stands for plane, like airplane. Now you know. So a rip trip is basically my nickname for a short, long weekend getaway. I do 2 of these every year, solo trips where I fly somewhere in the United States, although I suppose it could be Canada or Mexico. It's a short trip, and I usually take it either in April or October. So thanks for asking. Frank, how you doing, Frank? I don't remember if we've met or not. I think so, but don't quote me on that. Die Hard, thank you, says, if you don't use the $95 credit on the CSP for hotels in the portal, then how does one justify keeping the card? Is it just you paying a $95 fee for access to transfer partners? Bingo! And I think that'll become a little clear as the presentation continues. Chris says the CSP is the best chase earner. So now we're talking about the Sapphire Preferred. With the bonus 0.1 points is the only card with grocery earnings. A little bit of what Brady said earlier. Do I even care about categories? Maybe. Let's keep going and help decide on that. Dennis says Dugroz math always works. Thank you. Rental, inn, plane. Matt's with me. Sometimes paying the annual fee is fine. Sometimes you just pay the annual fee because you need to pay the annual fee. With Chase, I've either got to get a CIP or a CSP, one of the two, and pay the $100 fee to use their transfer partners. That's fine. Doesn't bother me. Hey, we're still hovering at 98. Thank you so much. Anybody want to try to do the 49-cent super sticker or 97 cents or something less than 99 cents? Anybody want to take the challenge? All right, big screen. Keep going here. All right, let's pick some cherries. So yeah, I did the randomness for a more true sample. Now let's actually make this sucker happen here. Example number 1, we're going round trip this time, and we're flying from Des Moines, Iowa to Washington, D.C. Round trip, 22,000 miles plus your $11.20 9/11 fee. That's not too bad. This is one of the few places I can go nonstop. And I did find out that I really love the Capital One Landing, which is sort of like their restaurant/lounge at the Reagan Airport there. Main cabin would be $622 on this same date. This was June 17th, so we're going to go out for, some summer fun there in DC again. 2.8 cents per point. Not too shabby, because that's something an entire family might actually do. Now, Alaska would probably be a little better, because if you can find it, you can actually do an Alaska Airlines flight in first class for 15,000 points per person and something like $12.50. So that would be better. But A, Alaska is not always available. B, now that the pipeline of moving Amex points serendipitously, how do you say that? With a lot of cloak and dagger from Amex to Hawaiian to Alaska is dead. The points I have are the points I have, and they probably aren't going to be replenished unless the premium card from Alaska ends up being awesome. So not as good as Alaska. I would rate that as still very solid. That's like a double or a triple. Example number 2, we're going from Des Moines to Savannah, Georgia. Maybe I'm going to hang out with Anthony Venture for a while. I always think of that episode of The Office where Andy talks about Southern accents, and the Savannah accent is more like you got molasses dripping out of your mouth. This one was only 5,000 miles. That is as low as it gets. This is Saturday, November 1st. Now, admittedly, not a truckload of people flying to Savannah, Georgia on a random Saturday in November, but I might. Well, it's a week or two before the creator meetup, so I probably wouldn't. But apart from that, I probably would. 5,000 miles, $5.60, and that would be $150 if you paid cash, $154. 3 cents per point. Now we're cooking. Now we're doubling we're doubling the 1.5 joy of 1.5 standard. So this is a home run. Maybe not an exciting home run. It's a home run when your team's already up by 7 runs in the 8th inning, but a home run nonetheless. Just out of sheer curiosity, because this flight has a layover in Dallas, I looked up what it was directly from Dallas. It's 1,000 points more. So if I fly only the second leg, I pay more than if I fly both legs. For forcing American Airlines to use more gas and an extra seat in a plane, they are giving me a 1,000-point coupon. I don't always understand how this works because, yes, Des Moines is a small market airport, but it's not one of those, what do you call them? Like the tiny airports where the government subsidizes tickets. It's not one of those. Frequent Miler has frequently mentioned, Greg from Frequent Miler has mentioned, sometimes American is just weirdly and randomly good. Like a flight from Chicago to Dallas might be 10,000 points, but a flight from Des Moines to Chicago to Dallas might only be 5,000. So living in Des Moines actually benefit from some of that weirdness, where the price between hubs is actually more than starting in a small regional airport for whatever reason. See if there's any major comments. Matt says the care for category starts when the bank starts saying no. I'll give you that, but I'm not there yet. JC says 2 years ago, I redeemed 2 business class flights one way from IAH. I think that's Houston to Curacao. Oh, you even got the squiggly C in there, with an overnight stay in Miami for 20,000 airline miles, American Airline miles each. I love the redemption, even just for domestic first seats. Absolutely. Frank says, I've been a long-time lurker, and thank you for your reply. I like your channel because it's common sense for the common person. Write that down. Write that down. That is a great saying, Frank. Thank you. Common sense, CENTS. Well, I'm glad you've been a lurker, and thanks for taking the time to say hi. I really, really appreciate it. And if I end up with the tagline on my channel that says common sense for the common person, I'll be sure to give you the hat tip you deserve. Next example here is, was this another proofreading fail? No, this one's right. Example number 3, we're going from Des Moines to Fresno, California. My favorite thing about the Fresno airport is that the airport code is FAT, F-A-T. And this is round trip. I've actually wanted to go to Fresno. I don't remember what's it called. Is it Fresno/Yosemite? I'd love to go see Yosemite National Park sometime. Do I have the right national park in mind? Californians or national park lovers, call me out if I'm wrong here. Round trip from Des Moines to FAT on Thursday, September 11th. And that's the kind of day I would take my fall rip trip. So this is actually realistic, even though it's cherry picked. Only 12,000 miles plus $11 with a normal cash price of $377. That's 3.1 cents per point. Again, we have a home run with that one. This is another one where I looked up the alternative. If instead of flying from Des Moines, I flew from Dallas, it would be 20,000 points. Now, this one isn't quite as fair as the last one because if you look closely, the return trip, or the trip there is through Dallas, the return trip is through Phoenix. So not quite the same, but I do find it funny that I can fly more cheaply to Fresno from Des Moines than I can from a major hub like Dallas. Do any of you have examples of like, maybe we even done like, what do they call it? Skip lag, or you just chose to drive somewhere like, you know, say you live in Chicago, but you just drove to Moline, Illinois, and took the Quad Cities airport because the ticket was cheaper. If you have any stories like that, I'd love to hear it. Example number 5, I'm going to Ocean City, Maryland, also known as Salisbury/Ocean City, on May 25th, another spring rip trip potential, 13,000 miles plus $11. This one is one of those where it's a very small airport, and I love flying to small airports. So start in Des Moines, small, have a layover in, where's this one? Philadelphia, big city airport, end up in another small airport because you can get like a rental car where like it's 12 steps from the baggage claim to the rental car clerk. There's one guy in line, and they're like, all right, here's the key. You're in slot number 3. And it's like you walk out and around the corner, your rental car's right there. You don't take a shuttle or anything. That's how the Charlottesville, Virginia airport was. So that's how the Panama City Beach, Florida airport was. I love tiny airports. The reason why this cash price is so expensive is because I think American and one other airline are the only 2 that fly into Ocean City. So yeah, the tickets are kind of expensive. but it's the kind of thing I might actually do. And let's face it, we're cherry picking. 5.7 cents per point. Grand slam right there. Yeah, dog. Only do one more, and then I think that's it for the cherry pickers. And you'll notice I'm going up in cents per point. Let's say I want to leave the United States but stay in North America, and we're going to go to Canada A. There was a music video like 15 years ago on YouTube that went viral called Canadian Please, and it's like a girl and a boy, and they're kind of rapping. So you know that you want to be Canadian, please. We've got a land filled up with trees. Something like that. We invented insulin to fight disease. If you know what I'm referencing, speak up. If not, I'll shut up. If I want to go to Toronto on Saturday, June 20th, 2026, I'm only paying 6,000 miles. What? That's actually very reasonable to fly to a fairly metropolitan large city. I'm flying through Chicago, so there's going to be a desert of lounges. And I have to leave at 5 a.m, and the layover must be pretty epic because I don't get there until 11:20 at night. But if you're willing to roll with all those terms and conditions, it would have been $364. You're going to get yourself a game-winning walk-off grand slam in the bottom of the ninth at 5.9 cents per point. Ron says essential air service is what I was thinking about. Yes, like if you fly to Burlington, Iowa, your ticket will probably be subsidized, and they would call it the essential air services. Des Moines isn't that small, but sometimes you still get the benefit of a lower price than flying through a hub. Sleepy Rod says, behind catching up, this was a good year for Citi, in my opinion. They delivered on American Airlines. Chase went downhill this year, implementing so many rules and restrictions on their rewards program. I agree with everything you just said. What's funny is we've been making fun of Citi for, taunting us with the American Airlines as a transfer partner after their exclusive agreement, taunting us with the Strata Elite for a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. It's almost like now that it's out, we all forgot about all that upsetness. And now it's like, oh, I love you, Citi. Somewhat justifiable. Tim McDonald says, yes, if I fly to FAT, I would have access to both Yosemite and Sequoia National Park. Do both. Noted. Thank you. Ron Byrne asked, what are the 4 cities in the Quad Cities? It is 4 medium-ish sized cities that straddle the Mississippi River on the border between Illinois and Iowa. On the Iowa side, we have Davenport and Bettendorf. And on the Illinois side, we have Rock Island and Moline. There's also an East Moline, Illinois, which is almost like a suburb. And there's a really good Category 1 Hyatt there. At least last I knew it was Category 1. Dennis says, Toronto is great for foodies. Thank you for filling me in on that. Dad on a Mission says, I love small airports as well. I'm flying to Flagstaff this week on American using Citi points. Hey, that's like a real life example of what we just talked about. Why don't you let us know how many points it was and where your layover is, and round trip versus one way. We've dropped a little. We've gone from 103, 104 down to 86. So keep on clicking thumbs up. Throw me a bone with a super sticker. That would be awesome. That would help the algorithm. So what have we learned so far? Well, we've learned with our total cherry picking summary, we have an average of 4.1 cents per point. I wrote, but one really influenced. Again, that was left over from last time. Like I said, I didn't proofread. 4.1 cents per point. They were all cherry picked. What do I expect? 2 of them were great and 3 were solid. I did 5 examples this time. I didn't have any that were meh. In fact, am I remembering correctly? Every single one of them was above 1.5 cents per point. I think that's true. Yeah. All of my cherry-picked examples were above 1.5 cents per point. They're all actually above 2 cents per point. So if you cherry-pick, you can get at least solid, and you have a good chance of getting great. I had 0 that were meh. So if we kind of think overall for moving Citi to American Airlines, I'm averaging somewhere around 3.2 cents per point if I average out cherry picking and non-cherry picking. There's always that argument of like, is it fair to use a cherry picked value? If you go to Frequent Miler or the Points Guy or maybe not Dr. Credit, lots of other sites where they give reasonable redemption values or what your points are worth, they'll say things like, Hyatt points are worth 1.59 cents per point. Well, that's the average. That's not the cherry pick. Choice points are worth 0.82 cents per point. Again, that's the average, not cherry pick. I tend to shoot for something that's between realistic and cherry picked because most of the time, if I'm going to use it, I want to cherry pick. But every now and then, you got to settle for something else. So let's just kind of roll with that line of thought. It looks like there's a fair amount of 5,000 to 7,000 for one way or 10,000 to 14,000 round trip in the spring and the fall, which again would suit me quite well for my RIP trips. So, if I think like 7,000, that's the equivalent of like $70 one way, doing great. $140 round trip, doing great. I think, when I travel like in April, I've got about 3 weekends I can choose from. So if I see like on one of those Fridays, they've got one of those saver rates for 5 or 7K, I can craft my trip to that. So I think I will actually be able to cherry pick a fair amount. That doesn't mean every time, but a fair amount. I think I'll be able to cherry pick with that. Drawback time is they don't have everything. When I was going through and cherry picking, there was one I looked up and I just could not find a decent rate. First of all, I was looking at some of these little tiny airports like Billings, Montana, or Grand Forks. I almost said a bad word. Billings, Montana, or Grand Forks, North Dakota. And American didn't even fly into those airports. So it's not like I have everything. Also, like I did a return trip from Pensacola, but when I looked at a trip to Panama City or Pensacola or Mobile, Alabama, or somewhere down in the southeastern part of the United States, I don't remember where, it was like I could get it on American Airlines, but like it would almost be a disingenuous cherry pick because it would be like, oh, I'm getting 14,000 American miles, but the cash rate would be $400, but there was a Delta flight like 2 hours earlier for like 140. So it would be a situation where if I was using a portal, of course I would pick the Delta flight. So I can't always count that. So what I'm saying is American has some bad prices and some missing destinations. I wrote their small airport struggle, and that's what I meant. Like if you want to fly to Topeka, Kansas, you might only have 2 airlines to pick from. One's going to be some weird regional airline like East Coast Airlines, which for some reason flies to Kansas, and they fly a turboprop, and United. And like those are your only 2 choices. So you can't expect American to cover everything, especially if you're talking small airport struggles. Dad on mission is flying one way through Phoenix, ending up in Flagstaff for 8,000 points. It's 3.8 cents per point. Yeah, that's another good example, even if it is slightly cherry picked. Dad says the most important number to me is moving from 112 degrees to 80s. It's too hot here in Phoenix. Oh, I misunderstood. I thought you had a layover in Phoenix. You live in Phoenix. 8,000 points still isn't too bad. Clairvoyant says there's only so many trips you can take in a year. What do you do with your Citi AA points outside of American Airlines flights? Would you save that question for later, please? JC says, sweet redemption, great weather and scenery in Flagstaff. I've driven through Flagstaff. I've never stopped there. I drove to Page, Arizona, if you want to go real far north in Arizona. Clairvoyant says, so I guess the answer is to fly business class everywhere. Oh, yeah, I've thought about that before. Since I can earn points except for my European trips. If I take those out of the equation, so far my earn rate has been greater than my redemption rate. So I probably should spoil myself and get business class trips, but I'm actually starting to put some thought into just taking some of my credit card earnings and putting them in like a Fidelity account to save for the future, or Charles Schwab or something like that. QC Man says, Dugroz almost working blue. I'm not sure what that reference is, unless you mean the background is blue, my shirt is blue. If I'm blue, like down in the dumps from what happened with the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve. In late RIP U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve version 1. Absolutely. Dad says 3-hour drive from here to Flagstaff. Flight's about an hour. I'm taking a rental back. I see. Also, I have thought I've flown from Des Moines to St. Louis before, which is like a 37-minute flight. And I think to myself, yeah, I could drive 5 hours to get there, but you know what? I can also do stuff. Even if it's slightly less efficient, I can read a book on the airplane. I don't get tired from driving. When I arrive, I'm fresh and ready to go. So if it's close like that, I'm going to fly. I used to be the opposite. JC says, my Citi points use history, Turkish J class at 45K each before devaluation, KLM J class, Ava Air J class, LAX to, I think that's Taipei, Taiwan, 75K each. Ooh, that's pretty good. Points with Philip's arrived. How you doing, Philip? Big time content creator. Love the video. Thank you. I appreciate that. QC Man stopped by and gifted 1 Dugroz Reports membership. Celebrate, celebrate. That's just as good as a $3 donation. I just thought I was doing celebrate. I need to keep my elbows down and do more like this. I don't want to be accused of pulling an Elon Musk. You know what I mean? Working blue equals cursing. I had actually never heard that euphemism before. Thank you for clarifying that, expanding my horizons here. 98 people on board at 11:20 Central Time. I think we'll end right on schedule around noon today, hopefully. We got a little more presentation to go. Clairvoyant kind of gave a little preview of what I'm going to do other than American, but let's wrap up the American thought. So here's my conclusion for Citi to American. Conclusion. It fits my travel goals and style well as a tool, but it can't be the tool for cheap domestic flights. So when I'm ready to move on to part 3 of my Path series on how to best earn points for cheap domestic flights, I can take Citi to AA into consideration, but I can't use it for everything. If I want to fly to that small city in Tennessee or whatever. Actually, Ron Byrne, I looked up the Tri-Cities Airport not too far from Johnson City, Tennessee. That's his stomping grounds. I didn't find anything decent with American. So I don't even know if American goes there, or if they do, there was no saver available at the time I wanted to go. So if I wanted to go there and go down and visit good old Rocky Top or something like that, I would have to use a different tool. So in my toolbox, it can be a top shelf prominent tool, but it can't be the tool. It's like that quote in Star Wars Episode 8. Did you find the code breaker? We found a code breaker. Or the episode of The Simpsons where Bart has a casino in his treehouse, and at the airport, Robert Goulet comes off the plane and says, are you from the casino? And Bart says, I'm from a casino. Good enough. Let's go. All right. What else you got? Now, I'm going to give a confession here. I was working on this. It was pushing midnight, so I didn't get real far down the path. Something else that has kept me from canceling my Citi cards is the hotel partners that Citi has. To be more specific, they have Wyndham Rewards, Choice Privileges, and I Prefer. They also have Leading Hotels of the World, which I'll be honest, I just haven't really looked into yet, so I'm not really sure what I can say about them. I think that's more of a fixed value at somewhere around 1.5 cents per point type thing. I'm not really going to spend a lot of time talking about Wyndham Rewards because, I've done that before. There's a whole nother video on Vacasa. Actually, I think I have a slide for this. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about Wyndham because if you go back about 7 weeks ago, I did another excursus from the PATH program of how Vacasa fits into things. And if you're wondering what I mean, Wyndham has a partnership with a vacation cabin rental company called Vacasa, where you can rent like cabins, condos, unique properties, those sorts of things in North America, including Canada and Belize and the United States, of course, for vacation rentals. And I usually value those at a bare minimum of 1.25 cents per point. So it's solid, but not great. Sometimes you'll get like a 20 or 30% transfer bonus from Citi to Wyndham. So let's just average that out to 1.25. So if I take 1.25 times 1.25, if I wait for the right transfer bonus, I would get effectively 1.56 on Wyndham points, which is, again, very solid, not great. And that's why I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it, because go back and find that video if you want to know more about it. But their other two hotel partners are Choice Privileges and I Prefer. Both work for Preferred Hotels, which sounds weird, but it's true. Now, Citi points transfer to Choice at 1 to 2. They transfer to I Prefer at 1 to 4. What is Preferred Hotels and Resorts? It's similar to small and luxury hotels that has their partnership with Hilton. It's a loose confederation of independent hotels that are either unique, fancy, or unique and fancy. Certainly not all of them would I want to stay at. Some are too swanky, but some are in unique locations or just very historic, and that appeals to me. So you can use choice privileges points to book many of the preferred hotels. I learned from Frequent Miler that what you always want to do is check both to see which is better. Now, by the time I was working on this, it was almost 12:15, so I only got one example. This was not a cherry-picked example. I just plain chose it. So we're looking at the Northern Hotel, which is in Billings, Montana, hence earlier wanting to go to Billings or Grand Forks. July 23rd and 24th, which I think is a Friday going into a Saturday of next year, 2026. Let's see what kind of hotel options Choice can offer me with this one example. If I book it through Choice Privileges, the Classic King Guest Room, which is their just normal, ordinary, sort of standard redemption king room, is 29,000 points per night. The cash rate I found on a third-party portal like hotels.com was $284. Now, bear in mind, even though it's 29,000 points, remember, Choice transfers 1 to 2, so I only need 14,500. I cut that in half. And that would come out to 1.96 cents per point on the Citi side. Very solid. Again, a solid double or triple, not a home run. I would take that most of the time if I wanted to go there. I'd rather do that than spend $284 out of my precious, precious travel savings account. On the other hand, if we go with I Prefer, we got the same exact room, the Classic King, same exact night, same exact hotel, an elegant hotel with playful Western touches, 30,000 points. You might think, Dugroz, that's 1,000 points more. But let's remember that you transfer to I Prefer from Citi 1 to 4 instead of 1 to 2. So we take 30,000 divided by 4. We only need 7,500 per night. So if you do the math on that, it comes out to 3.79 cents per point. I would rather get value of 3.7 than 1.9 any day of the week and twice on Tuesdays. That means I only have to spend 7,500 Citi points instead of 14,500. Now, we all know realistically you can't transfer over from Citi in increments of less than 1,000. So I'd have to transfer over 5,000 points. One of the concerns with booking directly through I Prefer in the past was it seems like their tech wasn't quite ready for transfer partners, but it seems like over the past years, they've done more and more. They've gotten better and better. Greg from Frequent Miler has done a couple of examples and said it's getting better. It's less concerning, but you always want to check because there are a few of these hotels. Remember, it's not like Hilton or Marriott where it's a franchise. It's just a loose confederation where they might try to charge you the rack rate because they don't quite understand how it's coming through. So just make sure you follow up on whatever you need to follow up as you're doing that. So more thoughts. We've seen 3.2 for American Airlines on many domestic flights. We see 3.7 on the loan I Prefer example. So could I conservatively peg my personal use at 2.5 cents per point? Like I said, I like to calculate my personal cents per point somewhere between like the cherry picked rate and the reasonable redemption rate. I like to shoot kind of for the middle, thinking 2/3 of the time I'm going to cherry pick, 1/3 I'm not going to be able to cherry pick. So if I say I'm going to lean into getting back on board with Citi and I'm only going to use it for things that are pretty good deals. I'm not going to use it for cash out. I'm only going to use it for this type of thing that I've looked at today. Is it reasonable that I conservatively peg my use at 2.5 cents per point? I think that's reasonable. What do you guys think? I'm so sorry. I had a Mitch McConnell moment there. My apologies. I was just trying to find where I had the last comment. Okay. Points with Philip says that's a fair conclusion. I do love using Virgin for Delta domestic tickets, though. I do too, in a hypothetical sense. It seems like the problem for me is the Delta flights that I need are not available on Virgin. For example, when I flew to the creator meetup last year in New Orleans, I had a layover in Minneapolis. So I flew Des Moines to Minneapolis to New Orleans. If I had just flown from Minneapolis to New Orleans, that was available through Virgin, booking domestic metal with Delta. But when I added that Des Moines leg, it didn't have it as an option. So I would certainly keep looking, and if it ended up being the right move, it would be the right move. Citi does have Virgin. I confirmed that yesterday. Henry N. Louisville. I hope I said that right. Good morning, Henry. Don't think we've met before. My spousal unit pretty much absolutely hates 1 week trips. RIP trips are her preference. Awesome. I need to start taking some RIP trips with my player too. The problem is she's a school teacher, so April and October, she doesn't have a lot of time off. I think QCM was asking Philip about what kind of redemption rate he gets using Virgin to book Delta. And he replies, the cents per point isn't the best, but it can be like 10 to 15 points less than Delta for the same trip. That is true. Did I already mention that QC Man gifted 1 Dugroz Reports membership? I don't remember. He's done it twice. He did it 11:14 a.m. and then again at 11:18 a.m. I see what you're doing there. You're trying to milk the algorithm for all it's worth. Celebrate. Thank you for your patronage, QC Man. That's just as good as a $3 super chat. In that 1 to 5, 1.8 range for Virgin. Cesar says, mi hermano, Doug, sorry I'm late. That's okay. All's forgiven, brother. Thanks for being here. Some people saying hi to each other. Philip needs to head out and edit a members only video. Understandable. And Cesar's late and this is a Citi video. Ron Byrne points out that American goes through CLT for Tri-Cities Airport. I could also check Knoxville, which is TYS. Thanks for the tips there. Although I like flying into the super tiny airports. That's why that one appealed to me. 1 flight a day that goes through Dallas. Tri also has 1 flight a day tour from Dallas. Okay, I knew what you meant. I thought the video was buffering. No, I just got stuck in the headlights. Yeah, Dennis says deer in the headlights. Okay, we're holding strong here. 89 people. We're doing okay, but if you haven't clicked thumbs up, please do. If anybody wants to give me the this many people are watching and only this many people have clicked like update, I would appreciate that. I think that would be reasonable. If so, if you also think it'd be reasonable to peg my usage, whether it's I prefer Choice or American at 2.5, and I tell myself Citi is going to be only for transfer partners. It's not going to be for cash out. If I say that to myself, could the Citi ecosystem kind of replace the altitude reserve? By the way, there was like a lens flare when I did that transition. Did you see it? I didn't see it the second time. It was just a fluke. This is a screenshot of some of my recent purchases that I've made on the altitude reserve. I know there's an argument out there, why use the altitude reserve, OG version, on things like gas, grocery, and dining when you could just use other cards to get 3x. And that's not wrong, but when you're making lots of little purchases, sometimes you just want to go ding, 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 and use the same card every time. You don't want to go digging. So what kinds of things have I been buying lately on my altitude reserve? Hy-Vee, that's a grocery store. Casey's, that's a gas station. Again, these are not gigantic purchases. We got $38, $2.69. The Salvation Army, the aforementioned Trip and Ames, and I bought some records. I think maybe it's one of the two showing. We have Satin Affair by George Shearing and Herb Alpert's Rise over there. Used records. I only buy used records. 365 Retail Market is basically the company that runs the vending machines where I work. So we've got little purchases, 214, 189. These do actually code as dining, these vending machines, at least on Wells Fargo they do. So I'll assume dining. So I bought a pop, bag of chips, pop. These were separate days. I'm not a glutton for pop. Okay, I am, but I'm not that bad. Medicap Pharmacy is a pharmacy. So Chase has pharmacy as a 3X category. But again, could also just use my altitude reserve and make it easy. Casey's, again, grocery store. And Fairway, the last one there, is also a grocery store. Bought something for $11 there. So as we think that through, what does the Citi Strata Premier give you? It gives you 3 points per dollar on restaurants, 3 points per dollar on supermarkets or dining, and 3 points per dollar on gas and EV. Every single thing on this list, except for Salvation Army and the Medicap pharmacy purchase, counts as that. So I could get a lot of use out of the Citi Strata Premier, CSP as it is now. So let's take a second to look at the earnings. I'll catch up on comments briefly, though. Tom Graber stopped by, big time diehard, and drops a $4.99 super chat. Celebrate. Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Gentleman Explorer has stopped by and says, my OCD may prevent entering a fourth ecosystem after the big three. I wonder what you consider to be the big three. I'm going to guess Amex, Chase, and Cap One. That's just my speculation. If you'd confirm, I would love that. QC Man points out there's only 68 likes. Let's push past that to a nicer number. Jake T says, Herb Alpert rise. I'm glad I have another Herb Alpert aficionado. If I'm out and I see a Herb Alpert record and it's in decent shape, I pretty much get it, because you can't go wrong with Herb Alpert, whether before or after the Tijuana Brass. In fact, Rise and Rotation are two of my favorite songs. QC Man says, do you plan on getting the Elite at least for the sub? Down the road, yes. It's down the road a ways. Probably we're talking April of next year or beyond. And I was right. Gentleman Explorer thinks the big three are Chase, Amex, and Capital One. So here's the earnings. We get 3x on, and we mentioned this earlier, dining, travel, grocery, gas, and EV. Travel is defined as just hotels and airfare. All of this becomes 7.5% cashback equivalent if I assume 2.5 cents per point, because I took 3 times 2.5. That's 7.5% cashback equivalent. So that's actually better than the old version of the Altitude Reserve. So maybe I should have been doing this all along. Well, I couldn't have been doing it before a week ago because American Airlines just became a transfer partner. I don't think I set time aside, but of course somebody will ask me, I'm assuming, are you afraid of American Airlines devaluations? Of course I am, but let's make hay while the sun is shining. This is one of those screens where I didn't proofread. They were all supposed to fly in from the side. Oh, well. If I think about the arsenal of Citi cards I have right now, I said I have 3. I have 2 custom caches, and I have the generic Strata card. Let's say I upgrade that to a Strata Premier. Maybe I would do a breakdown of something like this. Since the 3 major categories are the 3 ones I have, I could do, for example, dining on the Strata Premier, which right now I'm using the PayPal debit card. First of all, I don't think that's going to last. Second of all, it's only 5% cash back on the button right now. So 7.5% is better than 5%. But sometimes you just need cash too. So I could see it both ways. And actually, that's not even a true statement. Right now, I'm using that triple cash rewards from US Bank because I need to spend everything I can to hit my sign-up bonus. So, but let's say hypothetically, I'm not working on a sub. Dining would be 7.5% cashback equivalent. Gas, let's say I keep it under $500 per month. Take that times 2.5 cents per point. You got a 12.5% cashback equivalent. And same thing with grocery, a 12.5% cashback equivalent. Now, I might just buy a gift card. I might mix it around. Like if I know at the beginning of the year, I have a deductible that's pretty high, more than $500. I might, for that quarter, make pharmacies my custom cash and just move grocery over to the Strata Premier. Or maybe I'll use something else for groceries. I have to think these things through. But I would say for 3 categories where probably an average American spends most of their in-person swipes on credit cards, that's pretty good. That's really hard to beat. Do you guys think that's pretty good? So I've got 4 different reactions here, and I'll catch up on comments, but right now I'm just going to push on and finish up the presentation. I'm going to use memes or GIFs for all of them. My first reaction to all of this Citi stuff is that might just be crazy enough to work. It's Keanu Reeves from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. I can't remember. Was he Bill or Ted? Let me know. But yeah, I'm like, I was thinking about dumping Citi a week ago, and now I'm thinking of making them my main everyday driver. That's crazy, but it might be crazy enough to work. My next reaction is from Elf. It's pretty good. It's too good. I don't know that it's going to last very long. This is where I make my comment about the AA devaluations. But you know what? I've got the cards, $99 annual fee, make hay while the sun shines. It might only last a year, but if it lasts a year, what a year. Also, one thing Citi is not known, well, there's two things Citi's not known for. One is customer service. The other one is they don't fix problems quickly, which can be a benefit. Their IT, I'm pretty sure, was last updated in 1992. But that means if people are abusing the snot out of this, I don't know that they're going to catch it very quickly. Now, American might catch it very promptly. Third reaction is from Dumb and Dumber. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. I actually do like it a lot. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of having this major swing in emotions where I went from hating neutral, hating, loving Citi. And then this is probably the best one. This is just one of those stupid inspirational quotes I found online almost by accident, but it actually kind of applies. If it's scary but worthy, then do it. If it's risky but promising, then try it. I feel like in the world of points and miles, you just got to shoot your shot. And yeah, Citi's probably going to do something to tick me off, but man, I got that really good redemption on the Salamander Resort in Middleburg, Virginia, where I got more than 3 cents per point using I Preferred. That's probably something that'll never happen again, but you know what? I shooted my shot and it worked out. So to quote myself, 1 week ago today, I said, maybe not these exact words, but something like that, when I was doing my review of my wallet and what my future changes will be, I said, Citi has until the end of the year to do something to impress me. Well, you know what? When they not only came out with AA as a transfer partner, but they allowed it to be 1-to-1, and not only was it 1-to-1, they opened it up to the CSP. They impressed me. I'm taking away those provisional Ghostbuster symbols. I'm keeping my Citi cards. Don't know how long, maybe not forever, but for now, I consider them to be keeper cards until proven otherwise. Prove me right, Citi. Prove me right. So what I'll do is product change my, what used to be a Rewards Plus, now is a Strata, to a Strata Premiere. And that's what my Citi trifecta will look like for a while at least. And there's no more animation. So that's the end of the presentation. What do you guys think? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think this is a good strategy for me? Do you think it's a good strategy for you? Is this a good strategy for everyone? What are my blind spots? I am very happy to be proven wrong. And that brings us to the end of the theme of the day. Going back and catching up on comments here. Cesar says, my big three are Amex, Citi, and Chase in that order. Kevin says, we stayed in an I Preferred Canada back in May, transferred 150K Citi points for 2 rooms. Initially, the value was lower, but it was actually about 3.2 cents per point. Yeah, that's right about where mine was. Cesar says, Capital One raised the white flag, the flag of surrender, last refresh, and Wells is not competing. I've actually gotten into a channel, I can't think of what it's called, that does a lot of World War II naval battle reviews. And so I get that reference of raising the white flag. Wells Fargo is off course. We'll put it that way. Sleepy Rod says, it's hard to churn Citi cards, though. We're going to be spending on that 3X for a while. Yeah, this is more of an everyday driver than like with Chase, at least kind of. You can get sign-up bonuses with American Express. Don't know why I had another Mitch McConnell moment there. It's more like look for those targeted offers and that kind of stuff. QC Man definitely agrees on Citi being better than Capital One even before adding AA. Yup. And of course, you do still need to have a lounge access card if you're going to do this 3-card setup, because the Citi Strata Premier doesn't have any kind of lounge access. Whoa, E&M came in very strong, dropped a $19.99 super chat saying, catch the live later. Thanks for the content. Citi equals money. Yep, I know you love Citi, Ian. Thank you. Celebrate. Thank you so much, Ian. That's really going to help my family out. I appreciate it. Arnold Ali says, this is fantastic. I have this set up, the CSP and 2 custom caches. Bingo. I think you're going to really like it moving forward. Obviously, the American Airlines stuff hasn't been around long enough to apply everything, but do you have a Citi redemption or 2 you're proud of that you wanted to share? Gentleman Explorer said, the Capital One Duo is easy mode for the 3rd issue, adding Citi a serious layer of complexity for one transfer partner. Yeah. I actually have thought to myself, there could come a point, this is still a long ways away, so don't freak out, Aeroplan friends. If Chase really starts to lock things down and I just can't get sign-up bonuses and everything gets nerfed and the CSR never makes a comeback, could I leave Chase altogether? Don't really want to, but I have to at least consider it. Arnold also says, I have a 424 window coming soon. I am at least thinking about getting the Strata during that window, along with at least 1 Chase. Do you mean the Strata no annual fee one, just for the sign-up bonus? Not bad. Capital One is still good for solo travelers now. I have some thoughts on that. I feel like even if I make my kids authorized users, $125 a year for unlimited Priority Pass and Capital One lounge access, if that was just a coupon they sold, it really wouldn't be that bad. Of course, I will admit the hard part is when we got it for free for 2 or 3 years, it's hard not to compare. Clairvoyant says, I'll see y'all on AA flights soon. Absolutely. It's going to get a little more crowded with us points and miles lovers. We need to come up with some sort of like symbol or something so we can identify each other. Like Dugroz, Diehard, DD. That's not a good choice. Hey, we're back up over 100. Maybe we can all just wear the graphic that Ron Byrne made a couple weeks ago. Everybody wear your 1.625 cents per point shirt. Although I need to get a new one for Citi, 2.5 or something like that. Dennis says, go for it, Doug. It's also a really easy thing to go for. All I have to do is pay $95 and do a single product change. I don't even have to apply for a new card. So not too bad. Cesar says, Capital One was good, but not even close to Citi. Probably depends on what you're using it for. And I'll throw out the little girl gif. Why not both? Yeah, but I think you can safely argue this does take, if I was thinking of Citi below Capital One, we've now gone burp over the last year. Jake T says, make hay while the sun is shining is the only strategy that makes sense to me in this hobby. I agree with that. Chad with Miles to Mouse says, yeah, with the altitude reserve and chase nerfs, time to pivot to Citi. That's exactly where I'm at. Cesar says, Citi for the spend, Chase and Amex for offers and churning. Good strategy. YouTube Experiment says, just tuning in. I'll be driving home. Thanks for being a diehard YouTube Experiment. Gentleman Explorer says, the Chase lockdown is real. Amex may not be far behind. It's good to have a diversity of points to prepare for these scenarios. Arnold Ali says, yeah, the Strata no annual fee one. I'll later product change to yet another custom cache. I also wonder how long the custom cache is going to last in its current form, because I have to imagine there's a lot of people out there stopping by the gas station and buying a $500 gift card once a month. But like I said, Citi's slow to make those kind of changes. Jay Carlos says, I have the Premiere and 2 custom caches, so you have my ideal hypothetical future setup. Just product change the double cache to another custom cache after hitting the sub 1.5 months later in a Citi chat. Oh, I didn't realize you could do it through chat. I thought you had to call in. Hey, we're back up to 105 people on board. Keep clicking thumbs up. I wonder how much bandwidth of thumbs up clicking we have. Do we have at least 105 thumbs ups? Jay Carlos also said, I moved all my spend to Amex Gold and Citi cards since Chase leaves so much to be desired. I get that. If you're not using something like Hyatt or the Aeroplan strategy, or you are constantly flying United for work or something like that, I get it. Claire says, these airport lounges are just not worth it. I was just in the Capital One lounge in Denver. I would have been better off just buying $50 worth of products outside the lounge. Yeah, but I'm a real tightwad. How can this product benefit me? That's a Simpsons quote that may not have been delivered quite right. I think it's when Mr. Plow makes his first commercial and Bart says, but I'm a real tightwad. How expensive are these services? Something like that. QC Man says, definitely don't walk up to women at the airport asking them, are you double D? Dugroz. I thought of that, but wasn't going to go there. Thanks for going there, QC Man. Tim Morrison says, if you're going all in on Citi, why not also get a double cash for a 2X catch-all card as well? I thought of that. I applied for a double cash about a year ago, and they denied me. So that's one of the reasons is they won't let me. Now, if I tried again, they might, but I've got bigger sign-up bonuses I want to get. Because as Brady said earlier, as awesome as everyday spend is, sign-up bonuses are better. I'm also thinking my travel style, if you don't know, I pay for everything out of points, miles, and cash back. So I have to always have some cash back. So, or something that's like cash back. So like if I use, say my Wells Fargo Signify, I can cash that out. If I use my Capital One Venture X, I can use the travel eraser to erase $4 on some random parking garage in the United Kingdom or something like that. So that's probably why I wouldn't put my everything else spend on, but it's certainly a good idea. Gentleman Explorer says you may be spot on with making hay in the sun. Thanks. Frank says I just got below 524 and applied for the Chase CSP. I called Recon and they verified my info. They said it has to be reviewed and it may take 2 weeks. Ugh, don't like the sound of that. The Mitch McConnell moment is hilarious. New again, that was Tiger Maple who said that. New again says, yo, Doug and all. If you're a frequent traveler, lounges are crucial. You don't always need them, but when you do, they're clutch. And I really like the Capital One lounges, so I'd be willing to keep the Capital One card around just to use the lounges. Also consider the fact in Des Moines, Iowa, we've got a D thing going on. We mentioned double Ds. Let's talk about quadruple Ds. Des Moines, Dallas, Denver, and Dulles. So Des Moines, where I fly from, of the very few places that have direct flights, Dallas and Denver are 2 of them, not Dulles. So I guess it's only a triple D. So of the airports I'm likely to hit, Denver is pretty high. Dallas is even higher. So, yeah. And then, okay, let me change that up. Instead of Dulles, I'll say DCA. Des Moines, Denver, Dallas, DCA. That has a Capital One lounging. So, landing. So yeah, the Capital One lounges are in the places I need them to be. Didn't they also just open one at, was it JFK or LaGuardia? Can someone spot me here? Does Capital One now have a lounge at either JFK or LaGuardia? Which one is it? Or maybe both. Didn't I go to the one in JFK? And they had the cheesemonger? That sounds right. Yes. Tiger Maple says, also, it's pretty funny. Last week you said Citi has intended until the end of the year to impress me, and it seems Citi has impressed you. They heard my comment. Absolutely. QC Man says, to Tiger Maple, I'm pretty sure Citi made their changes specifically to impress Dugroz. Undoubtedly, they have people spying on me. New again says, I like the Strata Elite. Hive Mind has judged it to be mediocre, but it has CPL great use cases. CPL. You'll have to help me out. I don't know what CPL stands for. It certainly has use cases. I said at the very beginning of the video, if you love the nightlife, you love to boogie on Fridays and Saturdays, that's a great card for you. Sleepy Rod says, how long do you think before we get the AA devaluation? I'd say about a year. Arnold says Capital One has Las Vegas as well. Artrod Charles says JFK is alive. Good to see you, Artrod. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Don't think we've met before. Yeah, it was JFK. What am I thinking? QC Man says JFK Terminal 4. They're going to open a landing at LGA as well. I actually would prefer that. I probably wouldn't ever have a reason to go to JFK if I'm not flying to Europe. So LaGuardia is the one for me. So yeah, from Des Moines direct, I've got Southwest seasonally flies to Las Vegas direct. I'm leaving off Allegiant for the sake of ease. American sometimes flies to Los Angeles. We've got Phoenix. They don't have a Capital One lounge. We've got Denver has a Capital One lounge. We've got Dallas, Charlotte Douglas, lame. Chicago O'Hare, lame. But then DCA in Washington, D.C., good. And LaGuardia, good. So, yeah, lots of things that work out for me. CPL means couple. I don't remember what you said before. I don't remember what the context even was. Sorry, New again. Oh, okay. Citi Elite has a couple of great use cases. Sorry. That was an accidental Mitch McConnell again. JFK is open. LaGuardia is not finished yet. How was my experience at the Capital One Lounge at JFK? It was solid. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Pretty good. Sam K has arrived over in the United Kingdom. It's been a hot minute, Sam. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed seeing your land recently. That was good. New again says, hot take, Strata Elite is a top 3 travel card. Changed my mind. Ooh, because the CSR and the Venture X are no longer. Sam K is celebrating 6 months of channel membership. YouTube notifications are broken. Sorry, I'm late. Yeah, I know they're always treating you badly, but thanks for coming in anyway, Sam. I really appreciate that. Hey, we got over 100 concurrent viewers for the first time today, Sam. You'll be pleased to know that. All right, let's go ahead and transition now to community tab stuff. I don't need to use the bathroom this particular week. Or maybe I do. Do I? I'm going to push through. All right. There we go. Every Friday, somewhere between roughly 5 and 7 p.m., I will share Central Time. I will share a picture, and there's 2 reasons for the picture. One is because one of the things you're supposed to do is guess where the picture is taken. And the other thing you're supposed to do is ask me questions. Although I'm cutting back on the questions from this part of the save because sometimes it takes too long, but we're doing good today. All right, let me pull open the community tab and I will read said comments. First question comes from Little Roscoe 1000. I think I already know the answer to this question. Should I complete my US Bank Altitude Reserve redemption before the devaluation or hang on to my points in case Hyatt becomes one of their travel partners? I'm not sure if you're meaning Hyatt specifically or just using them as an example, but they ain't getting Hyatt. There's too much of an exclusivity thing with Chase. I mean, if they did, that would blow my mind. They would be dropping billions of dollars to land that. But let's just think about transfer partners in general. Solid Liquid Fox says 4.5 on any travel wins, cash out now. And I agree with that comment 100%. I would not wait until December 15th. Little Roscoe, if you have a use for your altitude reserve points now, do it now. I feel like that's from The Simpsons too, but I can't think of the reference. Catch 631 asked this question. I'm going to Las Vegas for the first time this November. Anything you would recommend as a must do? Well, I know this is going to surprise you, Catch, but I'm not really like a drinking, gambling, and carousing kind of guy. So Vegas has some things to offer, but not a lot to offer me. When I went there 2 years ago for the creator meetup, it was great because there were creators. A couple things that are more family oriented that I would point out would be stop by the Bellagio at night and just watch the fountains. They're really cool. And then the Hoover Dam is about a 1-hour drive from Las Vegas. So if you're comfortable renting a car, rent a car, head on down to the Hoover Dam. You can use your Aeroplan card, both for Hoover Dam admission as well as the Hoover Dam parking lot, and use pay yourself back on both of those. Mertz's Points and Miles says, we know Mrs. Dugroz took the picture due to the picture quality, unless you got a new phone. And my response was, why not both? I did, in fact, get a new phone. Say hello to my iPhone SE 3rd generation, which I will admit is new to me. It's more of a certified refurbished kind of thing. It's not the highest end iPhone out there, but I upgraded from a iPhone 8, which was like the equivalent of the SE first generation, I think, all the way to the SE third generation. So I'm now caught up with like 2021 level technology. How about that? So yes, I do have a slightly better phone, but yes, Mrs. Dugroz is the one who took the picture. So both. Cesar Joel says, Mi hermano Doug, are you planning to get rid of Citi cards or do you plan to add more Citi cards? I think I answered this saying we shall discuss it, but I'm just going to hold steady right now. I'm not going to get more. I'm not going to get rid of. I'm going to strongly consider this new option of making Citi my number one setup for everyday stuff. Catching up on comments now. Jonathan says, Capital One has their fabulous flagship lounge open in JFK. I love it. The lounge in LaGuardia would open soon. I think the reason maybe I gave the Capital One lounge 7 out of 10 stars. I think there's some growing pains involved. I think they'll get up to an 8 or 9 in the future. Like the people at the counter that makes like your deli sandwiches and bagels were really slow. And I told this story before, but I'll tell it again. I wanted this for my son, a plain bagel toasted with ham and Swiss cheese and nothing else. Bread, cheese meat, bread. That's it. And they gave me one with like mayonnaise and coleslaw on it. So I think they still got some stuff to work on. And then some of the seating was not great. It wasn't as cushy as I would have liked, but it was pretty good. Their cheesemonger experience, you had to commit to like a 45-minute experience is what they told me. They'll probably come up with a shortened like 5 to 10 minute version for people that don't have a lot of time, but they're not quite there yet. Sam K says, don't forget to like. It's totally free and much appreciated. And the algorithm will push out more great content based on the quantity of likes received. That's how we got over 100 today. In fact, we got 103 right now. So thanks, Sam and others. Kevin asked, do I think Citi will open their own lounges? I'll give 2 possibilities. Possibility number 1 is just a straight up no. And I think that's the most likely. I don't think they have interest in lounge space. Although, wasn't there something with the Citi Strata Elite that says you'll have access to Citi lounges if they ever open or something like that? And then my second thought is they will, but we're at least 2 years out from the first Citi lounge. That's my guess. There's just not a lot of space available in airports. When I flew to the United Kingdom back in June, and my flight got canceled. I got put on a different flight. My family ended up spending like 4 hours at the Des Moines airport. So I went around and took the raw footage necessary to make a promotional video to convince some issuer to bring a lounge to the Des Moines International Airport. So I intended it for Capital One, but I would accept Citi. So if anyone's out there, Des Moines, that should be next on your list. QCMS says, no shot Hyatt's going to be partner for US Bank. Clairvoyant says, I would highly recommend seeing the Circus Soleil shows in Las Vegas, along with having a few fine dining experiences. And if you're the type who wants to go to concerts, a concert or a musician you like. I think, was Taylor Swift in Las Vegas when we were there, guys? I don't remember. Or some female artist was. No, it wasn't her. It was the blonde girl named Miranda that sings country music. The girl that dated or maybe still does date the guy named Blake. D Green says, Vegas has some really amazing food. There in New Orleans has the best food domestically. Hey, and we went to both those places. So somebody said a good place for foodies is Toronto. Maybe the next creator meetup will be at Toronto. Gentleman Explorer says, great hiking near Las Vegas. I wanted to come back to the musician thing. So when I went to Las Vegas 2 years ago, my brother-in-law and I, Nate, both went, and we stayed in a Holiday Inn Express off the Strip. It was about 3 miles west of the Strip. So anytime there's an activity, we had to drive in. There was like a public parking garage really close to the meetup spot. And the first time we parked there, it was like $20 for the entire day. The second time, it was like $35 because they said it was concert pricing. So since there was that Miranda Lambert, Shelton, I don't know, Miranda whatever concert going on several blocks down the road, they ripped us off and charged us more. But my Aeroplan card paid me back on that one, I think. Great hiking near Las Vegas. Did I already say that? QC Man says, if you're not into the Sin City aspect of Vegas, there's a lot of good shows you can go and see. Frank asked if anyone has any damn questions. Now, I was thinking damn questions. DAM. I'll put that here in the chat. Hoover Dam parking lot. That way we all know exactly what I'm referencing. I am clean and tidy. Dad on a Mission says maybe take the family to see Wizard of Oz at the Sphere in October or November. Might be a good option. I didn't know anything about that. I know what the Sphere is. I didn't know Wizard of Oz was coming. Is that a movie? Is that a live show? Miles to Mouse says, did somebody say family-oriented travel? LOL. New Again says, no way US Bank gets Hyatt or even a grade A transfer partner, B- at best. FE stands for female edition. I'm not sure what that's a reference to. I apologize, Sam. Thanks for answering my question. You're sure welcome. And then QC Man says the best case transfer partner for US Bank would be JetBlue at 1-to-1. I don't think that's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. I've got a call coming in on my phone. I'm sending it to voicemail, so I have to wait. All right. Were there any? There is at least one more, but before I get to the picture, I want to make sure I've answered everything. All right. As it relates to the picture of the day, Ron Byrne took a guess and said, I'm guessing this is in Wales, United Kingdom. Ding, 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 ding. Maybe Sam can help us confirm this. And I asked him if he get any more specific, and he said, I had to internet search for about 5 minutes for the specific location, but it looks like Lynn Crafnant Lake, and he gave the coordinates even. And yes, you are correct, Ron. I'm feeling generous today. 5,000 Dugroz points to Ron Byrne for correctly guessing the location. So this is, in fact, a lake in Wales that was very close to where my family stayed, and I'll show you a couple more pictures here. This is a picture that I found online. This is like a professional or semi-professional picture of the lake. There is some sort of monument over here on the left. Tornado alarm. This is the first Saturday of the month at noon Central Time, so all of our tornado alarms are tested on the first Saturday of the month at noon, if you happen to hear that. It's a monument to something. I wish I'd taken a picture. I can't remember what it is. There's something I saw that like some hikers were killed in an avalanche like 100 years ago, and it might be that, but don't quote me on that. It might just be the grave of some random Welsh dude. So yeah, that was a very beautiful lake, very serene. I had previously said the most beautiful lake I'd ever gone to was Lake of the Clouds in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. This one's giving it a run for its money. The weather was nicer here, so I'd actually say this one probably has the advantage. Sorry, Lake of the Clouds, you're in second place now. If you're wondering where it's at, here's a map. The town that we stayed in was Trefu or Trewu. It's Welsh. I'm not sure you pronounce it, but it's basically hill town right there. And the lake is here. There's a string of 3 probably glacial lakes, although this one might be a reservoir now that I think about it. 3 lakes in a row. Lake Crafnance, which I'm probably mispronouncing. If I have any Welsh speakers on board, let me know how I did, is the middle one here. You would think this is only like about 3 miles we could walk there. The problem is the walking road is like a 2-lane path that is really muddy and covered in sheep poop. So we decided to drive to the parking lot, which is right about there, and then walk half a mile or so to the lake. So very beautiful lake. The cabin we stayed in was right there, Geshi Nushi. And if you want to zoom out and see where this is at in Greater Wales, right about there. And you'll see there's Liverpool, there's Manchester. Here's the northern half of Wales over here. Hope you enjoyed that geography lesson. And I'm going to read the comments, and I'll come back to the community tab just to make sure I'm doing it correctly. Sleepy Rod says, I think Citi and American Airlines set the bar so high for a new premium card. Wells Fargo is going to be disappointing when they release. My prediction. It depends. I made a whole video called Wells Fargo Do This. I think it's public. I don't believe it's members only. You're a member, Rod. Where I basically said what Wells Fargo should do is imitate the altitude reserve closely, maybe give an annual fee in the $350 range, $100 broad travel credit, and then do a 1.25 travel eraser. I think even if they kept their transfer partners the same, that would make bank. Because I think a middle ground guy like me who travels 5 to 7 times a year card would fit that demographic perfectly. I would stand and applaud Wells Fargo if they do that. Tiger Maple says, can I ask what the thought process is for taking 2 solo trips per year? I've always wanted to take solo trips but never got around to it. First of all, here's a round to it, which is a circular disc that has round to it written on it. Secondly, Tiger Maple, yes, my wife is a teacher. She teaches at a private school here in the Des Moines area. My kids both go to that same school. So I love traveling when the weather is moderate, and like April and October are amazing. You wear like a short sleeve vest and a long sleeve shirt. It's in the 50s or 60s. It's just chef's kiss for weather, especially if you're going to visit presidential graves, waterfalls, monuments, Civil War battlefields, those kinds of things, old fortresses. So it suits my interests well. My wife and kids have a hard time getting away in April and October. So with their full blessing, they're like, you just go, and it really recharges my batteries. After summer heat and the excitement of that, I want to get up for it. And then again in the spring. Now this year, my employer has been cracking down on time off from work. So I don't know if I can do the creator meetup and a RIP trip. So I'll have to pick one or the other. I'd go 80-20 on creator meetup because, you know, it's like going to camp and seeing all your buddies. So that's the logic there. It's just too hard for my wife and kids to get away. But I still want to travel. And it's usually cheaper. That's the other good thing. The weather's amazing and plane tickets are less expensive. New again says hi to Cesar. And Catch 631 says, yes, please. A lounge at the Des Moines Airport. They're already doing all that construction down there. Catch, are you an Iowan or a frequent traveler to Iowa? I didn't catch that. If you were, I apologize. Sam says, pineapple on pizza is a great topping. I agree with you. Catch also says, thanks for the suggestion on Vegas, everyone. Going for college basketball tournament, probably not the full Sin City thing. Someone named Dugroz reports clarified it's the Hoover Dam parking lot, and in this case, Dam has one M, and there's no additional letters. I actually saw someone the other day on Facebook. They put like the profane version of Dam, and they spelled it like the Hoover Dam, and I almost was like, actually. Dad on a Mission says, I'm from Tulsa originally, and they have an Amex lounge now, so maybe Des Moines will get one. The Des Moines metro area, like Des Moines and all the suburbs put together, is around 500,000 people. How big is Tulsa? Kirby says, I just woke up in time to start from the beginning. Thank you. Go ahead and watch on 1.25 or 1.3 or whatever. Dad on a Mission says, it's not a live versus Wizard of Oz. That's about all I know. Gold Homer says, crap, my Siamese alarm clock I got at Tractor Supply with Dugroz points didn't go off. I can't remember if the Dugroz credit card has return protection or not. You might have to hit me up on that one later. Sorry about the failure and the oversleeping, Gold Homer. I like how you pulled all those things together. Clairvoyant says, I don't think U.S. Bank is an East Coast focus, so I don't know if JetBlue is likely a partner. U.S. Bank is headquartered in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and they do have a Midwest field. So lots of branches in Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Nebraska, the Dakotas, maybe Illinois. I'm not sure if they get out as far as Michigan, Indiana. Someone can let me know how far afield U.S. Bank goes. Sam K says, I can't confirm the location if there's no sheep. I saw a lot of sheep. Fargonaut says, I'm not loving CBE terminology. I always think of as return on spend. Oh, well, that's good too. Either one works. I'm going to keep CBE for myself, cash back equivalent. In other words, if I just went out and bought this, I would have to get a cash back equivalent of 7.5% to break even. QC Man hopes that Dugroz points don't face constant devaluation. Me and you both. Tim Thompson, the anonymous gifter for the second week in a row, drops $4.99. Thank you so much, Tim. I really appreciate that. Celebrate. Thank you for your patronage. New again says, U.S. Bank's going to land Amtrak as a transfer partner. 2 altitude points equals 1 Amtrak. Actually, I've heard people say, before I even got into the game, the Amtrak rewards used to be pretty good. And I think it was like pre-2019, you could transfer Chase 1-to-1 to Amtrak. Does anybody know who had Amtrak as a transfer partner back in the day? And it was decent redemption. So if they did actually land Amtrak 1-to-1, I would say that would be a solid single, not a home run, but it would be solid. New again says, Sleepy Rod likes the Elite, my dog. Dad on a Mission says, I first heard of the round tuits from Zig Ziglar. I feel like I should know who Zig Ziglar is, but I don't. Couple people saying hi to each other. Cesar's going to get both the Strata and the Elite to pair with his custom caches. Once you get the Strata, the no annual fee one, obviously sign-up bonus, it's always worth it. But for everyday spend, what is it that it has? Because the regular 3X categories are the exact same as the Strata Premier. Oh, I see. If you don't have the Premier, you only have the Elite, then it comes in handy. Okay, yeah, I convinced myself that works. Dad Animation says about 1 million people in Tulsa. Okay, so take Tulsa, cut it in half, and you've got Des Moines. Now, the thing Des Moines does have going for it is it's the largest airport in the entire state of Iowa, and there's not very many like commercial airports in Iowa. You've got Sioux City, Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Eastern Iowa, and Quad Cities, and that's about it. So a lot of people come in from like, Ottumwa, Ames, Carroll, Marshalltown, Jefferson to fly out of Des Moines. Counter Everything says U.S. Bank's only transfer partner, Frontier. Good to meet you, Counter Everything. I think I've seen you on a Discord or something, but I think this is the first time I've seen you on a live stream. New Again says, Cesar Joel, that's how you do it. I started to make Citi my primary issuer this year, but paused with our new product change rules, but I'm proceeding now. Yeah, if you wanted to go bigger and get the Strata new annual fee plus the Strata Elite, that's a good strategy too. I'm just thinking what's best for me, Mr. Dugroz, where I'm not doing the nightlife and boogies very often on Fridays and Saturdays. Yep, I got it right, mi hermano, no Premiere. Glad we're on the same phone. So like in real life, we're brothers, but in city terms, we're more like cousins. Hold the phone. There's an Eastern Iowa Airport. Sorry if I said it wrong. Okay. Hey, that's it. We're ready to wrap things up here, people. Not too far off of noon Central Time. I got to 12:15. Let's review who has done goodies here, and then we'll give you your last chance warning to drop a super chat sticker. No one did the below 99-cent super sticker. Slight disappointment, but not too much. Double Animal Fries kicked us off with a $2 super chat. User JS0239. 0239, why aren't you at your station? 0239, do you copy? Became a channel member while we were on the air. John gifted a Dugroz Points membership. Eternal Vortex dropped $1.99. Mike Newland came through strong as always and dropped 20 memberships. That's like $60. Kevin P gave me $10. Much appreciated. Tariq gave $2. Tariq Burks specifically. Texas Dog, $1.99. JC, $2. Rex Blind, $1.99. TH, $2. Dimitri gave a 99-cent super sticker. QC Man donated a membership and then another membership. That's the equivalent of $6. Tom Graber donated $4.99. Ian M donated $19.99. Thank you so much. I don't know why I said I have this memory in my head when I said 1999, kind of that like inner city accent, for lack of a better term. I remember one of my early core memories that will never leave me is when I was a kid, about 7 years old or 8 years old, my dad was going to sell his car. So he took his old car to a business that was like detailing cars, just cleaned it out, vacuumed it, made it all nice. And it was just a mom and pop shop. Just one guy ran it all by himself. And the guy had a son who was about the same age as me. I'd never met him before, never met him since. And he had a toy whistle that was like, you blow into this whistle and this little electronic keychain plays these noises like, or something like that. Or, if you know, the 80s keychain noise. But at the very end, the guy, my dad, who at the time always paid cash for everything, went up to the guy when it was done and said, "Oh, good job. How much do I owe you?" And he said, "That'll be $100 plus $5 for Governor Branstad." At the time, Terry Branstad was our governor. So I just thought the way he described sales tax as $5 for Governor Branstad has always stuck in my mind. That was a super random story. Either you loved it or I need to apologize. One of the two. Sam K celebrated 6 months of membership. Tim Thompson drops his $4.99. Oh, and just now, Mike Newland gifted an additional $10 Dugroz reports membership. Celebrate. Thank you, Mike. You're very generous. So that takes you from 20 up to 30. 30 times 3 would be 90. That's the equivalent of donating $90, folks. Isn't he generous? Thank you so much. Cesar says, thanks, Mike. May have picked one up. QC Man acknowledges it, and you're welcome. So thank you all for the gifts. I got just a couple comments here. Sam says, you could add Nightbot to your streams. You can program it to convey messages and links. Okay, don't know what that is, but you gave me enough information to look into it, so I'm screen capturing that. Counter Everything asked this question: is the Aeroplan card just the strongest way to do domestic economy and cheapskate travel at 1.625? It seems like insane value dumping chase bonuses and earning into Aeroplan. If you have the travel philosophy that I do, yes, absolutely. I don't know how you can come to any other conclusion. Now, there's multiple caveats with that. Again, I don't have $10,000 laying around to buy the cheap $300 repositioning flight. So I have to find some way to pay for that. And with a family of 4, that would be $300, $600, double, $1,200, so I'm not just going to drop that money. Someone like Uncle Luke or Rewards Master would be more likely to say, I'm at a point in life where I have enough savings that I can budget some for travel. So I would rather save those chase points for 4 cents per point, 7 cents per point, 10 cents per point on Virgin or Flying Blue or something like that. And I'm okay paying $300 per ticket. Plus there's only 2 of us. So only $600 instead of you dropping $1,200. So which philosophy do you have? Maximum value and experiences, or getting as close to free as possible? If your goal is to get as close to free as possible, this is a weird hand motion to represent that, then yeah, Aeroplan is the best. The other caveat is, with sign-up bonuses becoming harder and harder to get with Chase, that strategy may not last forever. And I'm more inclined to use things like the Hoover Dam parking lot, like Viator, like a boat tour, like a ferry, like a Transpennine Express train over in the outskirts of the Yorkshire regions of England, than I am to spend it on American or United or something like that. So I think those two strategies side by side, what I talked about today with Citi and Aeroplan for everything else, Citi for flights on American, Aeroplan when American isn't possible, and all the ferries, trains, boats, buses, etc., would be awesome. In fact, I just gave myself an idea here. I'm going to actually type in the comments. Make a video with a fake future trip using Citi plus Chase Aeroplan. Would you like that idea? If I said, like, hypothetically, let's say these strategies are still working into the year 2027 and I take a future trip, Citi and Aeroplan being the 2 main ones, how would that work? Thank you, Counter Everything. User says, copy. I'm not sure if you're just trying to feed the algorithm or if I missed something. Ding, ding, ding. Okay. New Again says, there's no reason for any 2x back card when you have Strata Elite. See Adventure X, Blue Business Plus, Double Cash, etc. Apparently, you think the saved hassle is worth giving up half a cent per point and just putting everything on the Elite. And I'm not going to be that critical of you, especially for small purchases. Another thing you could do is keep one of those no annual fee ones, like the Blue Business Plus or your Double Cash, and only pull it out when you have a large everything else purchase. I mean, frankly, if I go to the vending machine at work and buy a $3 bag of chips and I don't know how it's going to code, so I want a 2x everywhere else, and I only get 1.5, so instead of 2, it's like 4.5% versus 6%. That's 1.5%. That's 4.5 cents in value. Am I going to really worry about that 4.5 cents? Now, obviously, you'd need to mark that up by whatever you value your points at. I could see doing that. I could see just putting everything on your Elite and calling it a day. QC Man says, Bramstead, it's Bran with an N, but that's okay. Bramstead was the governor when you were a kid as well. Wasn't he the governor recently? He is the longest serving governor in Iowa history, and much like Grover Cleveland or Trump, on 2 non-consecutive occasions. So he was governor back in the 80s, I think into the 90s, then stopped being governor, and then he made his return. I'm back. NBA Jam voice, he's on fire. I'm assuming that's me telling a silly story or something. User is laughing at something. Brian confirms the 2 non-consecutive terms as governor. As Grandpa Simpson said, I was spanked by Grover Cleveland on 2 non-consecutive occasions. Here's that idea. Let me know if you like that idea. Tiger Maple says that AA Advantage Aviator Red is apparently closing to new applicants starting September 30th. Oh, haven't heard that. And Brian Jackson got a free channel membership too. Celebrate. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. We're going to call it good right there. I appreciate all of you being on board. Thank you especially to those of you who made donations and contributions. And as always, may your spending be frugal and may your points be plenteous. Thanks.